Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for the last round of Summer Nations series before the Rugby World Cup. This one, England taking on the Flying Fijians. Last week, Fiji had their challenge up against the French, and England, they had themselves once again, just not quite the performance that they were after up against the Irish, but they are slowly, hopefully, going in the right direction as we head towards this Rugby World Cup. Looking through at this English side, they've made quite a few changes from what we are used to seeing. It's Ellis Genge, Theo Dan, and Dan Cole as the front row. Maro Tojo, I should say, and Ollie Chisholm as the lock-in duo. So Chisholm coming off the bench in last week's game up against Ireland. Courtney Laws at number 6, who actually played in the last game between these two sides, which was way back almost 9 years ago. Jack Willis at number 7, and Ben Earl goes from 7 to 8 for this contest. Alex Mitchell gets himself the start at number 9. A big opportunity for him due to that injury we saw at Jack Van Porfleet a couple of weeks ago. George Ford at number 10. That is due to Owen Farrell's ban. Manu Tuolangi and Ollie Lawrence. A lot of power coming from the midfield for England here. Johnny May, Max Malins, and Freddie Stewart. They will be a back three for the Fijians. Aroni Maui, Sam Matavesi, and Luke Tangi as the front row. So a couple of those men coming off the bench in the last performance up against France. Sam Matavesi and Ikanaveri at the moment seem to be the two first pick options for the Flying Fijians. In this case, they have gone with Matavesi. Nasila Sila starts at 4 with Te Ahuaru Tarikadavita. So Tasman Marco's playing a little bit later on today in the Bunnings NPC. Albert Tuisui at 6. Luke Lekima Tangivalu at number 7, and Viliami Mata at 8. I felt he played very well up against France, and hopefully can do the same up against England here. He will be going head-to-head with Ben Earl rather than Billy Vunipola. That is due to another ban for the English. Frank Lamani and Caleb Muntz, the Fijian Drew 19 combination. Semi Radradra and Waisia Nayatalevu. Now, that is a dangerous midfield. I mentioned about it for England, having Tuolangi and Ollie Lawrence, two crash ball specialists. And then Radradra's offloading game here. Nayatalevu tearing it up normally in the top 14. And also captain for this game. Vinaya Habosi out on the left wing, got close to scoring a try last week. I would almost say it's a certainty that he should be able to cross the try line. For this game, Celestino Ravatamanda and Eliza Droasisi takes this number 15 jersey of Mungwala. And he is the last man in that Fijian side. But looking through at the bench, we have got there finally says, I started it around that 2 a.m. mark. We don't normally start too early, mainly because a little bit before I was asleep. I couldn't start before that mark. Good morning, all go Fiji. Says Robert there, and Tossa Fiji. Tossa says DK, and I honestly think Fiji by 15 points. Now, that is a big margin, Robinson. But the thing is, I can see Fiji getting themselves a victory here, which is something that normally, if you said that in a game up against England, people would look at you funny and go, why are you saying that? But like I mentioned, the last time these two sides played was almost 9 years ago. So we don't really have any information from recent times to be able to actually go off. Or it might have actually been around 7 years. Either way, it's a long time. I was back in high school when it was taking place. And that kind of makes me feel old. But yeah, it was a while ago that these two sides played. England need a confident win here, or need a win tonight to give them some confidence going into the Rugby World Cup. Yeah, because that's the thing. Both of these sides are a part of Pool D and Pool C, which are both wide open for this Rugby World Cup. And looking through at the way that the tables sit, there we go. These are the two groups. England, Argentina, Japan, and Samoa all going to be a part of Pool D alongside Chile, who, to be honest, aren't expected to do too well in this group, but are there hopefully to cause maybe one upset, just to cause a few problems. Pool C, Australia, Wales, Fiji, and Georgia alongside Portugal, who are a little bit more of the unknown. Georgia are going to be playing just a little bit later on today up against Scotland, so that will be a great game to see how they fit in the overall scheme of things. And Japan, interestingly enough, sitting way down at the moment at 14th, which is something I didn't expect to see, but we did see it on the podcast. We have got there time will tell. Hopefully no Russian roulette decisions, especially with the cards, says DK. We have also got there in the chat, how's it, Hamish says CK, welcome in, East Coast, Ngāti Poru. Hopefully I've pronounced that correctly. And Pool D is the group of devs, says CK. Yeah, it's interesting that I guess in terms of very top teams, a lot of people look at Pool B, but I think Pool D and Pool C are just as competitive, if not more competitive, than Pool B because of the fact that it is about a four-horse race in both cases. They're talking about the fact it's 20 degrees at the moment at Twickenham Stadium, a fantastic atmosphere. It is actually where the Springboks versus All Blacks game was taking place. Dosso says Fiji Islander. Hamish, your thoughts on Scooter's red card? Amy's versus the Box says DK. I'm curious to know how it or where it goes from here because the referee gave him a yellow, so it got upgraded to a red, but I don't know whether or not it's actually been given as a proper red. I believe you will end up with a 3-match suspension, though, because it was taking out a guy who was prone on the ground, which you're not allowed to do. Scott Barrett, he's done it before in the past, and he has received red cards for it in the past. I think that game in Perth up against Australia comes to mind where he was a bit silly with the discipline. Glad they removed Mangwala from fullback for this game. It will be interesting to see how Drew Assisi goes because a lot of people haven't been a fan of Soreli Mangwala and what he's been able to do at 15, although there is a chance that he is one of those options and a big-time option for the Rugby World Cup. Go Fiji, go all the way, says Osea, and score prediction says, my name is Jeff. I believe it's going to be a closer game than a lot of people first anticipated, which is awesome to see that they are going to end up competitive in this contest. I think a lot more people thought that the game up against France would be more one-sided than it was, and Fiji were able to show that with physicality and a little bit of discipline in that middle section of the game that they were slightly getting back into that contest. Looking through at the Fijians' recent fixtures, they did take out the Pacific Nations Cup, winning 3 games from 3. So you can see there, 34 points to 17. The scoreline a little bit closer than that before the final moments of the game, though. They will want definitely to fire back here with a win, get themselves on a winning streak heading into that Rugby World Cup. For England, they've had 3 games of the internationals in August. First one up against Wales did not go their way. They weren't able to score themselves a single try. That was almost the trend that was being set for England, unfortunately. And I know that the media asked them about that straight after their last performance up against the Irish. They said this side have very much struggled to get over the try line. So what do they need to do to fix that? And Courtney Lawes pretty much said it's not from a lack of trying. You just can't score tries. So maybe this year, maybe this game could be the one, definitely at Twickenham as well. They could do very well. But Courtney Lawes leading out his 4 children out onto the field, a big monumental occasion for that man. And like I mentioned, he was playing back in the day for the last time that these two sides did end up going head to head. I've got there who's refereeing this match, Emmy. I haven't quite seen yet, but as soon as they show it, I will let you know. And we have got there, hello, no suit today. Says Old Punk. Yeah, for these ones, we are going to be a little bit more casual wear. Plus, it's a bit chilly here in New Zealand, about 7 degrees. So I thought I'd go with just the jersey. I was watching the post-game interviews, and for Artie and Coles to front up and Foster nowhere in sight. Pathetic, you could hear the plan or the pain in Artie and Cole's voices. Where was Foster? He was doing a post-match press conference with Sam Cane from what I saw. I actually saw one that had both of those men in it. I don't know whether or not that was the same one or maybe it was a little bit later on in the day. But yeah, him and Sam Cane seemed to have the post-match that they had to go to. And we have got Sebastian with the rugby ball in the heart. You're welcome in, mate. It is great to have you here once again. You're back in the English in this game, Seb? Or do you think there's an update or not an update, an upset just around the corner? Only 2 teams are 100% sure of making the quarterfinals, New Zealand and France. The other 6 places are wide open, says Johan. And that's the thing. Italy may just be able to cause an upset. Maybe not to make it out of the group stage, but maybe they get one-off win either against France or the All Blacks, and then that will determine that order in terms of who qualifies first, who qualifies second. Come on, Fiji, says DK. Evening, Hamish. Hard lines with the All Blacks last evening. Looks like you are 2/3 of the way of getting your wish. Box and the All Blacks 1-1 each. Let's hope the final can decide, says Joss. And any pike or any news on Lomax's injury, thanks for the commentary. So what I've heard, it wasn't actually a knee injury per se. Like I thought it was ligaments and all that kind of thing, or maybe an ACL, MCL, something along those lines. He just ended up getting a sharp plastic sprig down the face of his knee pretty much, and it cut right down to his muscle. So I know that in the post-match Ian Foster was talking about that, and he said, we've got to work out whose sprig that actually was because Beauden Barrett also got sliced open and not ideal. You don't want players getting gashes out of their bodies when they join a breakdown like Lomax got. And it looked like a relatively serious cut as well. So it won't just be a couple weeks with a bit of padding over it. It's probably going to be a little bit more serious than that. So I want to know whether or not it was an All Black sprig or a Springbok sprig, and if so, how that cannot happen when we get to the World Cup, because we don't want to see players with big cuts out the side of their cheeks and everything like that. Big love, lads. I just hope for no World Cup threatening injuries. Van Poortvliet is already a loss that stings. It is, because I believe a lot of the plan was based around Jack Van Poortvliet, because they had Ben Youngs off the bench for that experience. This game, they've got Danny Kerr, and they should ban the plastic soccer boots and rugby and go back to traditional 8-stud boots. Says CK. I heard the same as you. One of yours said he'll be good in 2 weeks, says Josh. So he may end up just like he's tough. So I feel like he's just going to keep on putting strapping on it and hope that it doesn't bleed a whole heap, which it could. Fiji going to smash these imps in there as well. But do let me know your first try scorer, ladies and gentlemen, in this game. Who is the player that will be able to cross the try line first? Do let me know. Courtney Lawshead, the guy who does so. I mentioned about him playing in that game all those years ago. Same with George Ford. Now looking through at the benches for the English, they also had Danny Kerr playing in that game alongside Joe Marler. But also off the bench, Marcus Smith and Joe Marchant. So Sebastian, I almost said, but Sebastian's favourite side, having 3 players. In fact, you count Joe Marler, that's 4, all coming off the bench for the Quins. The Fijians, Togi Otama gets that opportunity at 16. Kuroi Duadua and Samu Tawake, the other 2 front rowers. Maina Vanua, Mira, Kuravoli. I'm looking forward to seeing that man. And I actually feel that if he has a good performance off the bench, he might start to push for Lamani's starting spot, because I felt like Lamani last week up against France just wasn't quite as strong as we are used to seeing him. And Kuravoli in that game the week prior up against Japan was absolutely brilliant. Kalaveti Ravovo and Titi Teller, the other 2 replacements that the Fijians have got for themselves. 45 for Fiji, 34 for England. Says power for you, and the press will ruin the lads if they lose here, says Sebastian. And can't pronounce none of the Fijian names. They will score first, says CK. And first try scorer, Vinaya Habot, very good shout. And I have talked about it quite a bit, but it's a shame that he doesn't get a huge amount of game time for Racing 92 in the overseas top 14, which has come back. We've got a member of 2 years, 24 months. This man hasn't got sick of me, Sebastian. And I should mention, luckily now my live streaming software, it gets to see membership comments. So thank you very much, Seb. Hugely appreciated for your support on the channel. We don't have a 2-year badge, do we? But we'll have to come up with something cool that we can have in there as a bit of a special one. And Hamish, how many weeks will Scooter get by the judiciary? Will he get George Moala or Owen Farrell or Marco Vunipola? Or sorry, it was Billy Vunipola, wasn't it? So inconsistency is DK. I'd say that something for Barrett that's a little bit different is the fact that it was in the breakdown, wasn't it, rather than an open play. So I believe he'll still end up probably with a 3-week ban. I think Foster seemed to think he was aiming for someone else, missed him and got Malcolm Marks, but I think Scott Barrett knew what he was doing, so I think he's going to end up with 3 weeks at least. Can't believe that England can't afford or can afford anything unless or less than totally dominating in this game. Let's see how Fiji approach it. I feel like Fiji, I talked about it in my preview. I said that this game, I don't know why I've got so much excitement. I feel like it's because it's 2 a.m. and we've got the Fijians in action alongside an English side that are, I don't want to say desperate for a win, but they definitely need one that's relatively strong here. But I believe that the way that Fiji play is actually going to heavily benefit England, because the last few weeks, I feel like they haven't really played their best structured rugby, whereas Fiji will allow them to be unpredictable. They'll allow them to get some open space. And I think that that will actually help England find their confidence. England lock first, says Ice Cartel, and Fiji all day says Ints. And also, if the English get beaten by Fiji, it will do so much good for their nation and world rugby. Go the Flying Fijians, says Kerno Vic. And I just regret that I haven't been able to be on here more often lately. But thank you, mate, for what you do and building this cracking community, says Seb. And at the end of the day, the community wouldn't be what it is without every single one of you guys. So I have to thank you as well. Jaco Piper is in charge of this one, so he will have the opening match between France and New Zealand in the Rugby World Cup. Now at Twickenham, it will be English kicking off from left to right. They are wearing their away kit with the blue or their alternate strip. People get offended when you call it an away kit. The Fijians in their home kit. And Frank Lamani manages to boot it into touch about 35 metres out from the line. Christina's in the chat. Welcome in. And some big hits from those Fijians may unsettle them a bit. Says Joss Pike. Now Theo Dan with the line out throwing. They're making quite a few changes in their front row compared to what we are used to seeing, whether that's Jamie George. Oh, great run from Manu Tuolangi in the midfield there. Now off to the left-hand side, Ollie Lawrence, the other crash ball that England will be looking to use throughout this 80 minutes. Alex Mitchell going across there. George Ford find the pop pass up. It was Jack Willis coming in at number 7 for this game. Was actually off the bench, I believe, in the last match up against the Irish. Good attack and run from George Ford. Gets it off to Tuolangi. Great work in the breakdown, though, from Fiji with Frank Lamani. He does manage to get the turnover. And I mentioned about how his position is a little bit more on the line than maybe some of the others in the starting lineup. It's exactly what he needed to do himself. The early turnover, England in the navy blue away kit, says DK. And Fiji says power for you there as well. But Kayla Muntz now will be able to relieve some of that pressure. I feel like I can't talk anymore. I did a lot of talking yesterday for All Blacks versus South Africa. And now I feel like my tongue's too big. How packed is Twickenham today, Hamish? I believe they were expecting about 50% attendance for this England versus Fiji game. And just to put that into perspective, England, the home side at Twickenham, New Zealand versus South Africa was sold out with over 80,000 in attendance. So maybe that is due to the poor form that we've seen from England as of late. People aren't too happy with the lackluster amount of tries that they've been able to get, but maybe this is the game that they need to really ramp it up, get themselves, even if they lose this game, right? Which I know is a bit of negative thinking, but even if they lose this game but score 4 tries, in a way that's just a little moral victory for England because they have struggled for so long to score tries. Great work in the breakdown from Courtney Laws on the halfway line to get that turnover one for his side. I mentioned how long his arms are, pretty much as long as the average man's legs, and he's able to get that over the ball and win the turnover. Fiji needs to play smart rugby, defence, set pieces, and tactical kicking, says DK. In the evening, mate. How you going? Says Bevan, I'm doing very well, mate. Managed to squeeze a few hours in before this live stream. We've got a really weird schedule here again, just like our normal weekends, which means probably going to be up for about 26 hours. And then we've got Australia versus France as well. So I might be able to get a few hours sleep just before France and Aussie. That one was not straight, unfortunately, for the youngster Theo Dan. Now scrum feed will be in favour of Fiji. There is also a train strike in the UK today, says Fleshin. I mean, they could use that as the excuse of why it's not sold out, perhaps. But sadly, I think it would have probably been the case anyway. Just because, people, I don't know, how many Fijian supporters will there be in England? I feel like there'd be a fair few. And I'm sure that once Fiji get themselves a try in this game, we'll certainly hear a lot of them fired up. Bro, do you think Fiji is going to win? I think that this is probably a game that they have their best chance of winning up against England in a very long time. The sides haven't played for 7 or 9 years or something like that, so it makes it very tricky to know how they would match up. It's a good kick downfield from Fiji. In fact, no, it's not. I think maybe Caleb Muntz kicked that ball out on the full, did he? He's putting his hand up saying, my bad. Was it taken back or was it just... No, he didn't get a huge amount of distance on it, but Mitchell goes across to George Ford. Flat ball after Manu Tuolangi. Advantage in favour of the English now for Fiji being slightly offside. Theo Dan crashes up to the 22-metre line. Alex Mitchell back across to the right-hand side. Now nice pass off to Freddie Stewart. I mentioned about how he will be joining the line occasionally throughout this game just to try and add that little bit of an extra attacking threat. Now Ford looping around and behind to Max Malins, who's hit hard in the tackle. I believe it was Tangi Valu. Still playing under penalty advantage. I met the Fijians in Blackpool. They made the trip up north from Brighton. Says Sebastian. Penalty and is given to England again for offside. Now, this should be an easy 3 points. But to be honest, Is this, yeah, they're going to go for the 3 points. Is that something that's slightly hurting England in the long run? I know that this is a warm-up game for the Rugby World Cup. Should they be going for the corner in this case? It looks like it's actually raining at Twickenham as well, but I'd just like to see a little bit more aggression from this English lineup because we saw South Africa do that up against the All Blacks. They turned down so many three-pointers to kick for the corner, keep that pressure on. We know that if anything, a weakness for the Fijians is actually that rolling maul defense. So surely that would intrigue you to at least try and boot it for the corner. The early points are also crucial. So England, they will be taking the 3. And Fiji ain't winning this. 8-7 says the night. Is this going to be streamed DSST in Africa? Sadly not, just because of copyright and everything along those lines. England supporters are fickle. Watch them walk out on their players 10 minutes from time against France was disgraceful, says Kuno Wick. And also, what do you do during the week, Hamish? Do you work when you do not podcast? I do indeed. So, yeah, work as a builder alongside my dad. So, normally with the hectic rugby schedule, I'm kind of video and recordings and everything like that, and also live streaming on the weekends. And then after that, yeah, we normally just work and try and be able to sit here for the weekend type thing. But worked all right so far. World Cup around the corner. That's going to be tricky to balance work as well as the World Cup. I'm hoping to be able to take some time off, possibly. Now England in possession again. They have got themselves a 3-0 lead. George Ford with a wide cutout pass goes round to Ollie Lawrence, who now straightens with his run, breaks through the tackle of Radradra. It's dragged down in a good tackle attempt by Caleb Muntz. Now, Theo Dan wrestled down low. Mitchell feeding it off to the left-hand side. I think that's going to be Willis again with the ball. I should mention with Billy Vunipola being out injured, or sorry, not out injured, out banned, it does mean that that loose forward trio once again is wide open, kicked him behind with the chip and chase. Nicely booted forward by Eliza Droa Sisi. Sits up for England now, and I believe because it came off a Fijian player, it is not accidental offside. Now England in possession. They'll go back for an original knock on as Fiji were able to turn over the breakdown. Hi, everyone. I enjoy the commentary. Have it connected to the speaker and synced on my TV. Says it was there from Speaker Network. Thank you very much, mate. Usually appreciated. For anyone who does want to try and do that as well, I'm at 7:28 in the game. And that's game over. It's Fiji's now. Says Imps, and please, Hamish Senior, give your boy off time or boy time off for us folk around the world. He has our rugby lifeline, says Josh Pike. He gives me plenty of time off. It's not so much on his side. It's just to be able to, I guess, financially support myself throughout the Rugby World Cup. As you guys know, any money that the YouTube channel makes goes straight back into the YouTube channel, which does mean that working during the week is my source of income. So that is why I'll still probably have to work a few days just to get above water. The Box played extremely well, physical set pieces and tactical kicking. But the AB's under pressure, especially that first quarter, says DK. Hamish lays bricks, says Gareth. No, I'm not skilled enough to lay bricks. I mean, I poured a concrete slab the other day. That was all right. Always hard work. Now 30 metres out from the line. Big scrum from England. They will have themselves the penalty advantage. Jaco Piper says play on just for now, though. It's passed out wide to Johnny May. Breaks through the defensive line. And Celestino Ravatamunda misses the tackle. England score a try. That is something we haven't been able to say too often in their last few games. But they have crossed the try line, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, in the one-on-one scenario, Celestino Ravatamunda just getting beaten for speed on the outside. It will be his 36th try for Johnny May. Come on, Fiji defence, says DK, and England could win. But I'm supporting Fiji. I mean, anything could happen, says Power for you. After the All Blacks game, do you think the All Blacks will win the Cup? Or do you think they might win the spoon, as they was bad, says Bevan? I don't think there's too much to panic about for the All Blacks. I think, to be honest, people don't like Ian Foster, but he summed it up very well in the press conference. He'd rather have that now before the World Cup than have it happen in an important game. But now they know they've still got a lot to work on, discipline, handling. But, yeah, they would rather have it happen before the World Cup gets underway. And mates, however, again, Ireland, we're very interesting in the World Cup, and we are going to get exposed, says Chronic Underachiever. And hey, howdy, hey, y'all. Hope you're all well, says Scrumless. Hope you are doing very well too, Katie. England have missed that kick. It's gone away to the right-hand side from George Ford, but that will make the score now 8-0 in favour of the English. England rediscovered how to score a try, says Ars Robinson. And I mentioned about it. This game, I feel tactically, with the way that Fiji play, it benefits England drastically in terms of being clinical, in terms of being able to score themselves some points. Johnny May was extremely happy about it, being able to cross the try line. How many energies are there going to be? Injuries, I assume that is. We're probably going to see 1 or 2 in this game. Never arrived right off England's ability to choke. Says Jonesy. Although the good news is they've already scored as many tries as they have in a few of their recent fixtures in just the first 10 minutes. So that's got to be a positive, I'd like to think. Nicely taken by Freddie Stewart under the high ball, tackled by Caleb Muntz, who was already had a pretty decent game for the Fijian side. First 10 minutes, looks like Mitchell will be firing this one back across to the left with Jack Willis. Tackled by his opposite number, Lakema Tangi Valu. Alice Genge, big run. Muntz has to drag him down or, well, get run over by him. And May is getting on a bit now. But in his prime, he was a hell of a fast man. Sub 10.3 in the 100-meter time. It's going to be knocked on. Or was it? No, they say play on. It did hit someone's knee. No, now they call the knock on against the Fijians. Kicked him behind by England. That's almost a 50-22 for Alex Mitchell as well. They've seen the space in behind England, trying to make the most of it. The scrum is always Fiji's Achilles heel. Our big lads that can't scrum. Says Fleishan. And scoreboard says 1 try, 1 penalty. Says Ice Cartel. Poor tackle by Fiji. Come on, Fiji defence. Says DK, no panic for the AB. South Africa were great and coming off warm-up the week earlier. AB's shaking off the rust only. Prep for the Rugby World Cup. Looks to me like South Africa and New Zealand are the 2 best squads right now. Says Ty Skipper. Loose ball. Ben Earls does knock it on. Lamani picks up and now gives it off to Tangi Valu. Maro Toje trying to get into that breakdown. And I think now Fiji have realised that there is going to be a lot of pressure coming from the English in those breakdowns, whether it's Maro Toje or whether it is Courtney Laws. We have got there. Hamish, your thoughts on the non-selection of Ben Villavilla? A little bit of a surprise that he wasn't included in the side. Definitely with that experience. It is absolutely pouring down at Twickenham currently. I wonder whether or not that will actually play more into England's hands, I would say, mainly because they are used to the poor weather, but also it may mean that they go for a little bit more structure, whereas Fiji enjoy that unorthodox, chuck the ball out wide, cross kick it if you need to. Lamani is absolutely frustrating me, says Fiji Islander, although he did get the turnover earlier on in the game. So I feel like that is one thing to his credit. When are you streaming cricket next? That is a great question. I'm not actually sure. I know that we probably won't be doing the ODI World Cup, mainly because last time we tried a World Cup, we got a copyright strike. And the time before that, I believe we got a copyright strike as well with the cricket side of things. So it's very risky doing the cricket round this time of year, mainly because you seem to get struck pretty easy. They've got their Fiji Powerless. Says, and I don't know about that. I feel like they just haven't really been able to get out of their half at this point. Downfield from Lamani. For the first time this year as well, England will almost feel, you could say, powerful because they've been able to cross the try line. Now, a big run from Theo Dan. Injury there. Looks like it's full. Frank Lamani may have taken a bit of a stinger on the shoulder. Kicked him behind. Now it's going to be a foot race between Tumundi. Does get there first. Just there to Johnny May. And don't worry about Villavilla. Says Max Cassidy. A big Fiji community in the UK because a lot of Fijians in the British Army. Says DK. And also we have got there, who do you think is going to win or going to the World Cup final? That is such a tough question at this stage. But we will have videos coming out in the near future, having a few of our previews of different groups as well as previews of teams. And there might even be a video in there how we try and predict all of the games of the Rugby World Cup. We have to eliminate any risk of being copyright struck ahead of the Rugby World Cup. Says Sebastian. I was actually talking to Rugby Itch. Some of you guys will know him as Tim a little while ago when we were filming our podcast, because he asked me, he said, what type of goals do you have for the Rugby World Cup in terms of, subscribers, everything like that? And I told him I don't really set goals anymore in terms of subscribers overall in my head, mainly because the bigger goal is to not get copyright struck, which sounds quite sad to say, seeing as we've done this for so long, and that is our biggest concern, the fact that if someone's feeling like I guess, aggressive in terms of their copyright system. They'll just take us down because that was a shame about Super Rugby Pacific to cover like 65 of the games during the regular season and then make it to the final and then them be like, he's got too many viewers because he obviously must be showing the game even though we weren't. But yeah, avoiding copyright, that's the big thing for us at this stage. Go on, England, says Alice. And my brother is there, so he will be getting very wet. Did he bring his umbrella, Alice? Because if he didn't, he's probably going to be a very damp boy when he does end up coming home. And England or weather changes, hopefully. Fiji's tactic strategy change accordingly, says DK. But yeah, we can see it's almost a torrential downpour at the moment. It's looking like a throwback to the Ashes series when England were trying to level the competition. Going to be nicely passed across to the left, although there was a bit of a slip there from Caleb Muntz. Gets it off to Vanai Habosi, who now tries to step his way through, tried to find the offload up, but unfortunately the player who he tried to pass to did slip over. I can see a quarterfinal between South Africa and New Zealand can easily happen. That would be an interesting game. I don't see the same result again, says Brian. Passing off to the right-hand side now. Flat ball from Naita Levu. Did travel forward, but there was an offside advantage in favour of the Fijians. They do get themselves a penalty. It's rainy, then sunny and humid down the road here, says Fleshin. And no risk. Okay, says Robert. Yeah, the games of international cricket. I know that New Zealand recently played the UAE. It was one of the matches they had. South Africa and Australia playing in 4 days' time. We might consider having a look at those ones alongside England and New Zealand. The shame is that they do actually overlap. Yeah, we might end up covering one of those two. Perhaps. Now looks like Fiji actually going to take on the 3 points from around 45 metres out. This is a tactic we're not used to seeing for Fiji. Normally they would much rather kick for the corner, but being 8 points down, I think they want to close that gap just a little bit. We can see how wet it is. Labok kicking last night was impressive. Box found their kicker. I was there. Tough place to be dressed in black. Lol, great fun, says Ty Skipper. And go Fiji, says Tia. And also we have got their English rush defence tactics, borderline offside, Amish, although they were called for offside in that case. So I think Jaco Piper's keeping an eye on it. That is a good kick from Caleb Muntz. It's gone straight down the middle and now making the score 8 points to 3. We have got there in the chat again, when are you streaming the cricket next? Like I mentioned, it might be a few days' time or it might be a couple months' time. Because, yeah, copyright is the big thing there. The last thing we want to do is get ourselves a copyright strike just before the World Cup and then not be able to stream the Rugby World Cup due to having that copyright strike. 35 degrees here in Istanbul. Thank God for air conditioning, says Brian. I also got there. I think Fiji are going to come strong in the second half. What do you think? I think once they find their rhythm a little bit more, they should be more effective. I think it's getting used to these these worsening weathering conditions. On the halfway line at the moment, England are in possession 18 minutes into the contest. 5 points difference between these two sides. Courtney Laws trying to spin out of the tackle attempt of Lukima Tangi Valu. It's taken down nicely. Now Matavisi told to release, wasn't quite on the ball now. It's interesting because he has played alongside a few of these fellows in the English lineup, playing for the Northampton Saints. Alex Mitchell kicks it high. Max Malin's chasing after this one. It's a knock-on from Fiji, and now England have got the ball again in the form of Theo Dan. It's knocked out of the hands, and in fact, Fiji now going to end up with the ball once more. Viliami Mata able to clean it up. Now Lamani going for the kick in behind. Finds a little bit of open space, but it looks like it's going to be the big man, Ben Earl. No, in fact, it's Freddie Stewart. They look very similar. Nicely taken at the back by Eliza Droa-Sisi, who looks to give it an almighty heave downfield. Now, George Ford puts it high. Hasn't got the spiral on that one. Frank Lamani close to the touchline. Really put himself under pressure. Rather than cutting inwards, decided to try and back himself around 3 English defenders, and they just pushed him straight into touch. We have got there from Brian. Once again, it looks like try, doesn't it? But it is the Turkish dollar. No, it's not a Turkish dollar, is it? A Turkish tree? No. What was it called? Brian, thank you very much for your donation as well. But what was the currency? Another try, says Brian. And a lot of Fijians represented strongly in the World Cup. The ABs, Wallabies, Japan, and Fiji. Says DK in Turkey is hot. Too hot for the English. Deliberately. That says Genovic. The liar. Ah, okay. Hopefully I've said that correctly. Or the Lyra. It sounds like a lot of kicking in this match. There's been quite a bit, although with those weather conditions, I believe that both sides trying to use that to their advantage. There was a big clean out in the breakdown there for England. Now they will roll the ball back. They are 40 metres out from Fiji's line, but decide to go for the kick up high. Lamani running onto this one. In fact, it's Celestino Ravatamunda, and he has been able to clean it up. So now Fiji have got the opportunity of a counter attack. They want to use it, although more than likely they will go for a couple phases and also just boot that one downfield. A moment. We are better. I ended up sneezing again. I will Mark Delia make an impact for the All Blacks this Rugby World Cup says tonight. I think that they might look at Whainā Nuku in the next game up against France, just because I feel Talia, don't get me wrong, he had some good moments, but he also had quite a few quite poor moments as well. And maybe Whainā Nuku may have the more consistent game. Possibly. Not many people are supporting England. That's very odd, hey, says Power for You. I think it's just because they've been in such dire form that people have started turning their backs on them a little bit. But then that's the thing. The same people who turn their backs on them now will be the ones who say we did it if they do manage to go far in the competition. And Renko Ravolion says Fiji Islander. And it looks like Lamani's actually got himself some sort of injury. So maybe they will look at making that early change. We've got there Liam Lawson, F1 debut this weekend. Says Kiwi Gamer. And also we have there Juan just playing, says Kurt. And also go on the Fiji, says username. 22 minutes into this game, we've seen one penalty kick by England, one by Fiji, and then also alongside that, the try for Johnny May. And Joss has asked about the conditions. It looks like the rain is pouring relatively straight down, so I don't believe there's a huge amount of wind. It's about 20 degrees Celsius as well, so probably quite a humid feeling. There's Warren Gatlin watching on for this game. Of course, Wales haven't got themselves a warm-up fixture this weekend. Get spotted in the crowd there. Says Fiji Islander. We have got there, I think we like to support the underdog too, says Brian. I should mention about underdogs, or when we speak of underdogs, later on tonight we are covering the game between Samoa and Ireland. That will be kicking off at 6:45 a.m. New Zealand time, so that is in around 4 hours' time. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're going to be back for that game also. Should be a very entertaining one. But Lamani now feeding the ball, and that's gone down in the front row very hard. Unfortunately, slamming his face on the turf was Luke Tangi. It's going to be the penalty going against England, this time against Alice Genge. I believe that was the feet just slipping out from underneath him. That could be down to the amount of moisture on the surface, but also maybe a bit of extra pressure being put on. We have got there WRU sent gets to spy on England. Is Sebastian, or has he come to spy on Fiji? At the end of the day, they are in the same pool for the Rugby World Cup. So maybe just trying to work out a few things about this Flying Fijian side, trying to find weakness that they can try and expose. Looking forward to seeing it later. I won't be supporting the underdog then, says Brian. Big long throw over the top, nicely taken by Viliami Mata, tackled by Theo Dan. Now Lamani, pop pass up, 22 metres out from the line here for Fiji, their first real attacking opportunity of the game. Sam Matavisi tackled low, and I believe Manu Tuolangi may have got his head on the wrong side there, almost knocking himself unconscious. Taking a bit of a head knock. Now off to the right-hand side, Semi Rindrandra. Almost making his way. Oh, no, they almost making his way to 15 metres out. Oh, that's right. Says Sebastian there. Romania don't have a game this weekend, do they, Sebastian? That I know of. I think I've got the list of most of the games that are taking place, and I don't think Romania are one of them. No, they had their warm-up game last week up against Georgia. I think that's their last time in action before the Rugby World Cup, but I'm curious to see how Scotland, Georgia, and Italy, Japan go. I'm actually, believe it or not, we aren't going to be covering those games or either of those games on the channel. Instead, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to have one on each screen, and I'm going to be watching both of those games I'll be listening to the game between Georgia and Scotland to try and get that pronunciation of the Georgian names by the time we get to the Rugby World Cup. Most are relatively tricky, I will say that. I think the last time we tried to cover a Georgia game was South Africa versus Georgia, and our coverage cut out. So it's only about a 40-minute live stream, but we'll be listening closely to that. Also catching the start of Portugal-Australia A, if it's available here in New Zealand, which I'm not too sure if it is, but also watching Spain-Argentina on the replay to try and learn some of, well, actually, no, now that I think about it, Spain missed out on the World Cup, didn't they? So we should be all right for Argentina. We'll be watching that game for a different reason. We have got there, who do you think will win, H? At the moment, England are applying a lot of pressure, although some would argue with the amount of time that they've been inside of the Fijian half, maybe they should have a few more than 8 points on the board. Tuisova, Tank's still injured. He is at this stage. I think he should be all right by the World Cup, though. We're having a Farrell. When is he back? So he will be back for the second game, or in fact, maybe the third game of the Rugby World Cup. So we'll go here. England's upcoming games. I believe he can come back for the Chile game, and he will be back for Samoa as well. So it was a 4-match ban, if I'm correct. And this is the second match that he is serving currently. So he'll miss Argentina and he'll miss Japan. Big play on. Great work in the breakdown from England to be able to get the turnover. And now 40 metres out, Mitchell goes back across to Genge. Cut out pass. It slipped through the hands of Freddie Stewart, but straight to Manu Tuolangi. Now Ollie Lawrence tried the grubber. It went about a metre. And now it's in the hands of Eliza Druasisi. Lamani almost getting taken out by a Fijian player's rear end. Albert Tuisui driven backwards. Lamani back across to Sam Matavisi. Radradra now with the wide cutout pass going straight into the hands of Luke, or Lakima, in fact, Tangi Valu. He's looking very strong at number 7 for this game. I have to say we've seen a lot more of him than any of the other loose forwards just at this point. This will be a tough game for the ref. Having to figure out stuff as Georgians and Scots try to speak. You're a brutal man, Sebastian, but yeah. True. I actually saw on our last Georgian live stream that we did on the channel, we had 15 views that came from Georgia, and they actually averaged 15 seconds watching us. So I feel like they saw us, they were like, nah, never mind. We're all right, thank you. The 4-pack is certainly one to watch out for in this Rugby World Cup. I feel like them versus Fiji is going to be a very physical matchup. Quite a hard one to predict. Now, normally when I say that, people get annoyed, but I feel like the margin between those two sides is relatively even at the moment in terms of the way that they're able to play. Any score or any idea score from last night? New Zealand versus South African Bok, says Gordon McIntyre. Do you actually not know it, Gordon, or do you know it? Because if you don't know it and you do want to know it, I can let you know. I just don't want to spoil it for you if you don't actually know it. It's probably a little bit surprising, though. Tangi Valu does run a bit like Yato. He's just got a good frame to him. He looks like he could play anywhere in that 4-pack in terms of the loose forwards or maybe even in the locks if they need it. He's got that bit of height with him. Radradra now gaining the ball for Fiji, currently sitting 25 metres out from the line. Nice run from Luke Tangi. Off to the right again. Nice run from Tangi Valu. Tried to find the offload to Celestino Ravatamanda, but Courtney Law's arms that are the length of legs. Been able to get the ball back, but now dropped it. And Fiji take it back in the form of Aroni Maui. Lamani going back across now to Radradra, having a bit of a fumble of the ball, and it pops out the side of the breakdown again. Unfortunately, just doesn't seem like his handling's going too flash. And this one, all the Georgian names end with Idzi, or Ili, says Brian there. I'm trying to think, who is it? Merab Valishvili, is that his name in the UFC? I think he's quite a talented fighter. UFC on today, Max Holloway taking on the Korean Zombie. That's going to be a great fight. Probably end up watching that one, even though I possibly should be sleeping, but there's plenty of action on near future. Believe they're hiding till he's over till the World Cup. Says Jesse, I think it's also injury-based as well, so maybe not trying to rush him back, because if he did end up getting injured, even worse. Oh, the ball's gone free again in the breakdown. Now loose ball. Oh, Tangi Valu was flying up to take that. It will now be another knock on from England. It's getting a little bit loose out there from both of these sides. A lot of drop balls And come on, Fiji, play smart rugby, says DK. And also we have got there. So my street is closed off now to put the fire or to put the truck fire out with all these manga doodles in the back, says W report. And the wet surface, the wet ball, it's just not helping anyone, says Fiji Islander. And yeah, I think both of these sides would prefer if this game was dry, so they were just able to run their way all the way to the try line multiple times. But for now, every breakdown seems to be that the ball just pops out the side, little bit of a slip. Looks like Dan Cole, he's getting a bit of medical attention perhaps to his ear. It is normally, or it might be actually cheekbone here. Can't see it from this angle, but I think it was on the other side. The Scots should send Duan Whanamura as an interpreter, says Sebastian, and Fiji, says Corral. And also predictions for Ireland versus Samoa, says Hitman. I hope that Samoa are able to stay competitive. Although Ireland, I think, will be frustrated with the way that they played last week just because they didn't quite gel the same way that they had throughout that Six Nations. So I think they'll be more fired up. They're going with a decent side. Few different changes. And yeah, I hope it's a close game though and relatively competitive. Does anyone remember if Japan beat England last year? I can't remember that result. It says username. I can have a look for you. I know that the last time these two sides played was back in about 2015 or 2017, which is quite impressive. What do you think about will the All Blacks be under pressure coming against Springboks post their big loss yesterday? Says Coding. Of course, it will add a lot more excitement to the trilogy if we do get to see that trilogy. And that will be taking place as either the quarterfinal or the final of the Rugby World Cup, if it happens. England were able to beat Japan last year, 52 points to 13. So a relatively comfortable win. And geez, basic drills for this game, says Burning Lash. Yeah, I mean, we could put it down to the bad weather a little bit, but it also just seems to be the case of neither side quite know what their tactic is going to be in this first half. England seem to be going for quite a kicking heavy game. Fiji have been doing quite a bit of kicking themselves, which I feel doesn't benefit their natural game, although they are inside of the half of England now, so maybe this is when they start getting it going. Celestino Ravatamunda. Big shot coming in on Ronnie Maui. Off to the right-hand side. I believe it's the big man, Luke Tangi now, making an extra few meters. In fact, it was a Ronnie Maui again. He's a busy boy at this stage of the match. Almost 30 minutes in at Twickenham, and still just the one try being scored, that being the one of Johnny May. Tangi Valu goes off to Muntz now. Max Malins and Lawrence managed to stop him. Courtney Law's looking for the turnover. He's been told no hands. Still looking for hands. He's actually been picked up completely by the Fijians, one on each leg. And they said, nope, you're not getting that ball. Now short ball from Luke Tangi gives it off to Albert Tuisui. Driven backwards. So far not as good as the Fiji versus France game. Big run four from Celestino Ravatamunda. Breaking a tackle goes off to Naya Thalevu. And that'll be the try for Fiji. They may just check that last pass to make sure it's all right. But Naya Thalevu plays a majority of his rugby in France. Been playing well throughout the Pacific Nations Cup. In fact, he's been struggling for a little bit of game time. That just shows how strong Fiji have had themselves be in that midfield with Tuisova, Rivara, Naya Thalevu, with Naya Habusi out on that wing. We've hardly seen him in this game. It's been more of that targeting midfield with Naya Thalevu and Rivara. Perhaps that's due to the handling. They're going to check this one. They're going to show the last pass. I always feel bad about these ones that I call early, and then they decide to go back and look. Any Tier 1 countries in the Fiji or country players in the Fiji side for today's game? I don't believe so. There, unfortunately, I believe has travelled flat. There is a chance that they may rule this try out for the forward pass here. Where do the hands go? That's gone forward out of the hands. So this is going to be no try for Naya Thalevu. I was getting all hyped up for him until Mo decided to turn up now, says DK. Yeah, it would have been nice to have them when Yui Antonio had the swinging arm to the Fijian player's head last week. And while Fiji play unlike today as the World Cup final, says the night. And definitely forward, says Burning Lash. Yeah, their hands travelling forward for Celestino Ravatamunda. And it'll be no try in the early stages of this one. This will be scrum feed for England. It was a great step from Celestino Ravatamunda and fun Georgian rugby fact. Emma Watson got dumped hard by Matthew Honey, Georgia's sevens player. Says power bite. Okay. I did not know that. I also didn't know of a man called Matthew Yanni, so that might be why. Alex Mitchell feed the ball in. That one hasn't quite gone the same way England would have liked. In fact, just a bit too much screwing in the scrum. That sounds dodgy. Too much movement in the scrum's a bit better. Really, Timo, shocking. Seriously, need the VAR or bunker instead, says DK. And for Fiji, ever Fiji, says Viniana there. Currently, we are only sitting with one try throughout this contest, but it's relatively close, which we knew that it could be in this game. England getting themselves that little bit of an early head start with Johnny May's try and also those 3 points from George Ford. But other than that, a relatively even game between these two sides. Slowly seeing Fiji get a little bit more territory and maybe a little bit more momentum in their favour. Alex Mitchell feeding the ball, and again, much better hook that time from Theo Dan. I believe he actually missed it on the first one. George Ford. Now putting the ball down towards the touchline. Brilliant kick from him, actually bouncing into Dutch Ford's attempt at a tackle was woeful there, says Flesh. And funny enough, that's what people normally say about a different England fly half. Sorry, that's a mean joke to make. Definitely while he's got a suspension, isn't it? A good game to test, says Luke. And Fiji versus the Wallabies. Who you picking first game, says the Knight. I mean, Fiji, they've been on a great run throughout the Pacific Nations Cup. Australia have been a bit of a bogey team for them in the past. Although at the moment, Australia don't seem to know quite who they want to go with in that starting lineup. I'm curious to see how their game goes up against the French, which we are covering on the channel, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow night. So be sure, keep an eye out for that. Nice run forward from Vinay Habossi. Goes off to Semir and Dradra. Now the space is starting to open up. Big bump off tackle of Max Malins. Now 20 metres out from the line. A bit of desperation in the breakdown from Courtney Laws to slow the ball down and allow his English side to start making their way back on defence. Albert Tuisui considered playing halfback there. Flat pass from Lamani off into the hands of Nasila Sila. We haven't seen a lot of Tia Ehuaru Davita as of yet, but Sam Matavisi, the next man to have the carry forward for Fiji. They are sitting 15 metres out from the line. Lamani going across to Albert Tuisui, taken down low by Dan Cole. They have a bit of a cut earlier on. Does seem like he's a bit better now. Fiji still phase after phase. They're up to 7 in a row now. Bit of work here from Viliami Mata. On across to Tiawaru Rikadavita. Creeping just that little bit closer. 10 metres out now for Fiji. Lamani. This be their first try scoring opportunity. That's going to be close to offside against England there. Dan Cole actually almost started pushing Jack Willis. Seemed like there was a bit of a, I guess you could call it an argument in the English defensive line. Lamani going across again. Oh, that was almost a gap opening up, but it is going to be the knock-on from Fiji. Looks like Dan Cole has stayed down for a bit longer too. They've got there, Emma Watson got so far out of her skis. Told the British media that she was going to marry Matthew Yanni, and then he dumped her. Says Powerboy, Hamish, why tier 2 teams don't get the rub of the green by Northern Hemisphere refs TMO. It's a shame to see, and hopefully it's not going to be the case of the World Cup, because we have seen moments where, you know, certain things go upstairs and other things don't. Yui Antonio, perfect example there. George Ford just used his knee to make the tackle on Sam Matavisi, I think it was. Come on, Fiji, says Justin. They still treat them like they are amateurs to the sport. Says Chuck T and Fijians have the momentum now, says Ty Skipper. And someone can help me with a live stream website for this game, please, says Solomoni. Unfortunately, there aren't too many options around. Amazon Prime, I believe, have got the Summer Nation series. And if you have a free trial for Amazon Prime, you might be able to get it. That's what I use for the rugby, says Chuck T. And Flow Rugby does live streams, use VPN for the location. Says Burning Lash, and England are paying the price for letting Eddie Jones go. I made a comment at the time that a new coach would find it difficult to get England ready for the Rugby World Cup, says Jose. And the same can be said about Wales. I think a lot of people were optimistic that changing the coach within a few games, they're going to be backfiring, but it's just not the case. You need a little bit more time. Similar with what Eddie Jones has for Australia at the moment. As soon as Eddie Jones lost that first game up against the Springboks, everyone was like, haha, Eddie Jones, he sucks as a coach. Hasn't worked for him. But it's like, it's his first game. Yes, they're on a bit of a losing streak, but he's learning things, which is the main thing. That was a rough throw from England there. No one actually jumped, and instead Ellis Genge manages to take it. That looked like a cynical tackle from Ronnie Maui chopping the knee out. This might end up with something just a little bit more serious. By rugby, there's Kevin Dobb, and it sounds like a no arms tackle here from Ronnie Maui. What happened with their lineouts? Says Fiji Islander. Yeah, he's just dropped his head, Ronnie Maui, looking to chop out the knees. This could actually end up being a yellow card here. Like they've said, he's kind of, to be fair, no. They've said it probably made it look worse because Ellis Genge did jump into that tackle. How do I download a VPN for this, says Solomoni? There are a few VPNs around. Sadly, they are also normally priced. Like it will be a few dollars a month for a VPN to be able to set you to a different location. I will mention the highlights of this game should be up on YouTube pretty much straight after the game on the Summer Nation Series YouTube channel. So I highly recommend checking out that. Pay the TMO dudes. I know it was not Fijians because they spend their money more into cover, JK. Says Jesse. Now the rolling ball for England. Looking relatively dangerous here. Already under penalty advantage from 30 metres out from the line. A new advantage for a player off his feet. Now, that was very quick to give that advantage for Jaco Piper compared to the Courtney Laws one earlier where he was all over the ball when he was told to release and the referee gave him 4 warnings. Now another advantage against Fiji. Mitchell goes across now to George Ford, flat ball to Ollie Lawrence, I should say. Also, not all tier 2 nations have equal voting rights in World Rugby. Says Chuck D, come on Fiji. Says DK, just FYI, Amazon Prime has geo-blocking on it. Recognises VPN and block it. Says Brian. Geez, they're fancy, aren't they? I think Sky have that in New Zealand, if I'm not wrong, too. And Rugby World Cup final, France versus South Africa. Says Morne Lagrange. So does that mean, Morne, you're saying New Zealand versus South Africa in a quarter and France versus Ireland in a quarterfinal, I assume? You don't need VPN for VipBox. Just type it in Google. Just have to cancel the pop-up, says Chuck D, and make sure you don't misclick with that as well because, yeah, it will end up giving you a virus. I hope Fiji comes super strong, says Power for you. I'm watching the game in Turkey, but I have a connection to my brother's computer in Ireland, says Brian. Now, England 15 metres out for the line. Nicely taken to the front by Ollie Chisholm. Man, who I mentioned did come off the bench in the last game up against Ireland. Has the full box versus 80s game been posted on YouTube? If so, on which site? I haven't seen anything as of yet, but I assume someone will have it. Probably Rugby Vids. I think they normally do a lot of full match replays relatively close to after the game. Now it's going to be another penalty advantage against Fiji. Referee has said it's cynical. This could end up being a yellow card for the Flying Fijians here, although England now looking to try and get their rolling ball going forward. No advantage. This is going to be a yellow at this point. That's 3 in a row. Back across. Freddie Stewart, ball out wide into the hands of Max Malins, who tried to drop his head and go in for the corner, but he has been pushed into touch. Double blow of the whistle from Jaco Piper. He's got his finger in the air like he's asking a question, but he will be definitely not questioning what he's going to do next. He's going to the pocket. Number 1, Ronnie Maui will now be the man penalised, and he will be going to the bin for 10 minutes. Come on, ref, call it fair. English are killing Fiji. Ball, play it fair. Don't only call Fiji slow defence. Says DK. And South Africans. Says Jose. What do you think, or who do you think will win between South Africa and Scotland? After the last performance that we saw from South Africa, they've got a pretty good shot of being able to walk away with that victory. And don't get me wrong, like Scotland have been playing some pretty decent rugby, and they are actually taking on Georgia just a little bit later on tonight. I can't find it. Lots of different highlights packages. Says Joss. Okay, so it may be tomorrow, perhaps, that they get it up on YouTube, unless, of course, Sansa have taken them all down already. Who do you think will win between South Africa and Scotland? And Swing Low Sweet Chariot says, was there from Reese, and the winner for South Africa last night means their supporters will be piling the pressure on them now in expectation. I'm not sure they can handle that pressure, a respite for the Kiwis as a result. Says Ty. Now Theo Dam, 5 meters out from the line, thrown into Chisholm. Fiji cannot afford to give away another penalty advantage here. They're starting to roll very nicely, getting that little bit closer. It's looking good at the moment for England. Although Fiji, they may have been able to stop that one from coming out. The ball is not available. And Fiji get themselves the scrum with 1 minute remaining in the half. That is something that they definitely needed to go in their favour. New Zealand needed that loss, should help them focus for the tournament, says Chuck T. And yeah, like I mentioned, I saw an interview with Ian Foster afterwards. And I know people don't really like the guy, but he made a good point, and he said it's better to have that happen now and give us that reality check rather than having it happen in the first game of the World Cup or happening in a or a quarter-final, semi-final of the World Cup. At least they've got it under their belt now, and they know, right, we're not unbeatable. Even though we're on a 10-match streak, we are not out of the woods. World Cup draw is so unfair, says LJ the man. And yeah, the fact that World Rugby have decided for the next draw that they're going to do it closer tells you exactly what you need to know in that regard, and that is that they did make a big mistake doing it so soon. The fact that the 4 top teams are all on the same side of the draw is crazy. The ABs prefer that game not to be posted on YouTube, says Jose, and South Africa versus New Zealand quarterfinal, and France versus Ireland is the quarterfinal, says Mornay. Also, we have their box will retain the World Cup. It's not that starting, or it's not the starting 15 in the squad depth that determines who wins. Says a burning lash, and yeah, going with that 7-1 split off the bench was quite unique. And yeah, the All Blacks for the first time ever going with a 6-2 split and having the biggest losing margin in history for the All Blacks. So I don't think they'll be doing that again in future games. I think they'll be going with the 2 backs off the bench instead. A little bit of lightning. Hopefully the game doesn't stop due to bad weather. Normally it takes a lot for them to stop though, but we've seen it before. I think we saw a game in the URC how the lights turned out. Scotland will beat the Box, says Chris Seo. I guess what information in that regard, Chris, are you basing that off? Just out of curiosity, are you saying that Scotland will have a tactic that will beat the Springboks, or are you saying that maybe you feel Scotland are in better form than the Springboks going into the game? What is the justification? I'm just curious. Now Fiji, scrum feed, 5 meters out from their own line. Lamani will boot it into touch. That is now going to make the score 8-3 at halftime. Now, I have to say, not quite as high scoring as some were expected. That was a good first half, says Fiji Islander. And that's the thing, both sides are still well and truly in this contest now. What happened last night at Twickett? Sadly, I was working. I've been sleeping, just woken up, says Gordon. So I'll tell you who won, but I won't tell you the score just because I don't want to spoil the highlights completely for you, which are up on YouTube if you do want to check those out. But for anyone who doesn't want to hear the result of South Africa versus New Zealand, please do cover your ears or mute me for, I'd say, 10 seconds, because in 5 seconds, I'm going to tell you who won it. I don't normally count down like this as the wrong fingers. South Africa. Look at that. I even put the hand over the mouse so you couldn't see it. I missed most of the half. England look like they're struggling. Says Sighted and Amish, your thoughts on Khaleesi? I think he's come back from injury and played very well, which is great news for him because I know a lot of people, because he was injured, they were like, nah, he's not going to play the same. He's going to be rough when he comes back. But yeah, he's looking like he's picking up exactly from where he left off. And the ref and the TMO are nitpicking Fiji. But for England, it's totally different. Double standards, eh? Says DK. And also France losing Intermac is a huge loss. His club country access with Dupont is the best in the world by far, says Kernovic. Yeah, losing him just before a World Cup is massive. And I would say, we actually talked about this on the podcast as well, it's the biggest injury that we have had throughout the world of rugby before the World Cup, because that completely changes people's mindsets when it comes to France as a whole. And I always root for the Southern Hemisphere, says Chuck T, and Fiji can come back. Are they only losing by 5 points? Exactly right. I'm actually going to check what the odds are saying for this game, because I know coming into this game, Fiji were $6 underdogs. Now, I'd like to think that they'd probably only be about $4 underdogs now, because of the fact that they've been able to stay that little bit more aggressive. One moment, we will go like this. We will go like that. and like that. $8 underdogs Fiji. Weird. It's weird. I thought that they would have been a little bit closer, seeing as there's only 5 points difference between these two sides, but that is not the case. Instead, I guess they're expected to slow down. I don't think they'll slow down. I don't think they've done enough in that first half, and that being England, to actually pressure Fiji into the point of getting tired and fatigued. Some Bok fans are a little too toxic. Says Chuck T. Unfortunately, that's the case with all fans for certain countries, though. Like, there's always going to be that minority that do, I guess, talk a lot more than the others. Like a lot of places, though, like we've met a huge amount of South African fans who are absolutely awesome. So it's yes, there's some for South Africa, yes, there's some for New Zealand, there's some for France, Fiji, anywhere around the world. We'll still have some supporters that are a little bit more vocal, I guess you could say, and they're not always vocal for a good reason. But I guess you just get that in sport, unfortunately. And Scotland are playing well. Box got them first up, and Box eye on Ireland. And all we need to do here is go like that. There we go. I've got my tab back open. Kiwi that is talking a lot of sense, says LJ the man. We have got there Scotland playing well. Box got them first up, and the Box eye on Ireland. There's Chris Seo, and they would have been in the lead if it weren't for that disallowed try, although it was a forward pass in that case. So I feel like if that one had gone backwards, they would have had themselves the lead. But yeah, I can understand why that one was taken back and looked at again because it was forward by about a metre. Want my Fiji boys to win, says Wilbur. And South Africa are at risk of taking Scotland lightly for sure. They'll do that at their own peril, says Jonesy. Scotland playing well. Box got them first up and Box eye on Ireland. Says Chris. Hey, who's your favourite team going into World Cup? Says Mr. Skits. I mean, the defending champs, of course, South Africa are looking extremely strong alongside that. To be honest, like I think once Ireland start finding their strides, could be maybe a team in that group walk away with the victory. Fiji to win, just to shut the commentators up, says Will. I assume that that is the commentators at the game rather than myself, maybe. To be fair, in the last 24 hours, I have been told to stop talking quite a few times. France and All Blacks to draw the opening game, says Justin. We have got there Ben Smith, Justin name one. Box number one hater, says Kurt. And also we have got there, going to be tough. Scott and Ireland versus South Africa, Wales and New Zealand. Might be a bit complacent, says Gordon McIntyre. Yeah, as well, but do let me know what you guys think will happen in the second half. Should be a relatively exciting one. And I believe there is going to be a good chance that we see an early try. I just have that feeling that in the first 5 to 10 minutes, either Fiji are going to be able to break through that defensive line or England are going to go for a few more penalties in a row. We've got to remember Fiji playing with 14 players for the start of the second half. Tier 2 teams don't get fair treatment by refs and TMOs, especially the Northern Hemisphere ones. Let's not mention the judiciary too, says DK. And yep, the game, not you, lol, says Wilbur there. We hardly saw Vinaya, boss. We saw one run from him. That's quite surprising. I actually thought he would be the more prominent player in that Fijian backline, and I wonder whether or not, due to not seeing him a lot, they may even consider putting Eliza. Oh no, sorry, they'll keep Drew CC at 15, and probably Kalaviti Ravovo might go out to that side. The full game, ABs versus Boxers on YouTube, says Daryl, and I think that the ABs did not give their all yesterday. Says Power for you. I think that England's fitness will shine through in the second half. There's the conversation station. Guys, what do you think? Did Mani Lebok redeem himself last night, says LJ? This is going to sound controversial as well. I didn't feel he needed to redeem himself. I think that people were way too critical of him for his poor kicking performance in the game up against Wales. Because if you look at that game, yes, he didn't have the best kicking accuracy, but with the amount of try assists that he got in that contest, he actually made up for those points that they missed out on. So I felt like all the hate for him was unjustified because he was still able to set up a lot of tries throughout the process. But I said it yesterday on the live stream. I said whether you guys like LeBox kicking or you hate it, he's the 10 at this point, so you got to get behind him. Rawatamanda 14 and Ruasisi 15 are the fittest, fastest draw players. Says Wilbur. And also we have good there forwards determine who wins. Backs will determine by how much. That's why Fiji is struggling against their one. Says Burning Lash, and I think Fiji can come back. Not sure if they'll win it, but if England keep up the average of 1 try per game in the past 5, you never know. Every kicker has a bad day, says LJ, the man. You might be right, Mornay. And Lebok looks like a young Dan Carter. And Drew High has been crazy, or he's been crazy in the URC. Says Kurt, and don't know why Villa was not picked in the squad. Says Chuck T. I think that they were going with a little bit more of that youthful side of things, but I feel Villa still might have been a decent shout just to have that more experienced kid there. Take a risk and tell me who do you want to win in the Rugby World Cup. To be honest, I don't have a team in particular that I want to win. I have teams that I think might win, but as you guys know, I'm always impartial on these live streams, and I will continue to be that way throughout the Rugby World Cup. I think rugby is at a crossroads. It can start declining around the world and starts to die. And there is a decision to help Tier 2 and fix Tier 1 teams, although I'm afraid it will be the former. Dave Marty Lebok over any English fly half, says Jan, whoever introduced the bunker by following Rugby Australia's lead by ripping off the NRL needs to be shot, says Sibi Souza. And many of you that are live right now didn't give the Bok a chance, says Jose. Many of you that are live, as in like YouTubers and whatnot, or as in like supporters in the chat, Jose. I mean, I said it would be a close game, and I'll eat my words. I thought it was going to be a relatively close fixture between the two sides, and at least I was hoping it would be. And the Springboks just blew it out of the park. They managed to start quicker. They had the better forwards, and also their discipline was a lot better. Handling was stronger. There wasn't a lot that the New Zealanders were actually doing better than the Springboks throughout the game. Youngest 33 ever for a World Cup for Fiji, looking at 2027, similar to Australia, says Wilbur. And I think with the progression that we've seen from the Fiji and Drua, it's actually, it may not be a bad thing. The Fiji and Drua have shown this year that they are able to beat some very tough sides around the world. I back Aussies to beat France tomorrow, says Daryl. Do you think that Fiji will win against Wales? I think that they've got a decent chance at the moment with the way that they've been able to play. Of course, they would have liked to walk away with more than the points in that first half that they were able to get, but they haven't had a huge amount of territory, you'd argue, as well. Fiji will progress to the quarterfinals. I think rugby is growing in Ireland. It is growing very fast right now, down to school level. And even here in Turkey, fledgling rugby organisation has started up. There's Brian, and also I back Aussies to beat France. Said Daryl there as well. And Lebok has a big role on replacing Pollard, says LJ. And yeah, that's already like enough pressure for the young guy. So having people be like, oh, he's a terrible kicker, he doesn't deserve the jersey and all that stuff, like that's not going to help him. At the end of the day, he's the kicker now, he's the fly half. They've got to get behind him. Come on, Box Borders, it's over. It's not like a trophy was at stake. Scooter's red card clearly changed the game in your favour, says DK. Although saying that, like, I've seen the argument made by a few All Blacks supporters saying the Box only bet them because the All Blacks were down to 13 and they were down to 14. But the thing is, the only reason the All Blacks were down to 13 and down to 14 was because of how well the Springboks were able to play, because of the pressure that the Box were able to put on the All Blacks, as well as the fact that, the All Blacks just weren't playing very well. So, like, the Springboks, I feel like they caused that pressure, which then made the All Blacks crumble a little bit, and they had no option but to go down in men. So, I feel like that's got to be credit to the Springboks, rather than while they were playing up against less players. It's what they did while they were 15 versus 15 that was making that a possibility. 100% attendance by Welsh coaching team at this game. They're paying close attention to this game, says Wilbur. And also, yes, Scooter got a red card because it's of the pressure. That's all. ABs were demolished, says Daryl. I'm sorry, but there was a trophy on the line, the coveted Qatar Airways trophy. And MLE here, USA has grown too. And teams shifting around to make room for new teams. Atlanta moved to LA, and now Miami has a team, says Crumlays. I didn't actually get to watch a huge amount of the MLR this year. It's still on that Rugby Network app, isn't it? If I'm not wrong, met the ABs in the quarters. It'll be a different ball game. Let's be frank, box supporters. Says DK, and they've been saying USA has been growing for years, yet nothing. Says Daryl. Although I think there is progression starting to happen in the USA, and I think it was just getting a domestic competition going. That was the big starting point for them. They're looking to host the 2031 Rugby World Cup, so that will help them in the long run as well. LeBock's best mate is pressure. Said the pressure in South Africa this morning, or said the press in South Africa this morning. Yeah, although people confuse pressure with just like, I guess, criticalness. Like there's a certain thing of, yeah, LeBock, like try and play well because we want you to. And there's also the other side of things, which is players just pretty, or like supporters just going, you suck, get out of the Springboks kit, you don't deserve the jersey. Like the ones who are like, go out there and try and smash it. Like he's going to be looking at those and being like, yep, those are the ones that I want to read rather than the ones who are just telling him to get lost. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hamish does a sterling job for us. Says Josh Pike, and now I think the Box will have and number our number in the quarterfinals, and we'll lose to France. Says Daryl. But I should mention the second half just about to get underway. I had a microphone windshield just a moment ago, and I've lost it. So that is why anyone wondering why I keep looking down at the ground, I had a little, what's it called? A little adapter thingy, and I dropped it. And Moody, future star potentially, I think so. And whether that's playing out on the wing or whether that's in the centres, I think he has got a very, very bright future. These Box supporters are celebrating way too early World Cup. It's where it matters, says DK. Maybe he's benefited the most about that match. Good wake up call / piece of humble pie before the World Cup, says Wilbur. And that's true, DK. Says Brian there as well. But we've got a few Fijians in attendance for this game by the looks of it. A halftime it's relatively close at the moment, to be fair. 8 points to 3 at the moment. Looks like there's a little bit more rain that might be pouring throughout the second 40 minutes. They're showing Albert Tuisui, a man who was hardly seen throughout that first half. Okay, they've just said that there was a little bit of a delay due to lightning and thunder. So that is why they did take that little bit longer. I'm not sold on Lamani being the starting halfback, says Bullabro. To be honest, I think Kuravuli has a very good shot of starting most of the games for the Rugby World Cup. I feel Lamani is a really good impact player, but in the starting lineup, he just seems to make a few too many mistakes, unfortunately. It'll be all clear once both teams meet the World Cup environment. It's not as amped up outside the competition. Says Sighton and Rugby World Cup can unfortunately not be made bigger with more teams ever. Says LG the man. LJ, I should say. New Zealand supporters just aren't used to losing like that. I think that's pretty high, or that's been highlighted well online, onwards and upwards, though, says Jonesy. Yeah. The biggest loss margin for the ABs in all of history, which is pretty impressive. But I said about it in the post-match review, like some fans and some All Blacks will feel like they've hit rock bottom, but maybe that's exactly what you want before you start going up towards that Rugby World Cup again. Courtney Laws, back off his handoff kickoff, and that will now be the line-out throw for the Fijians within a score. Fiji will be happy enough, says Brian. England all the way straight to quarterfinals in the Rugby World Cup, says Paul. And I Hamish, long day for you. What has the feedback been like in New Zealand, says Sean. I did end up sleeping for some of the day, so I did miss a little bit of it. I haven't really seen a huge amount of it overall. And that may be down to me, like, only really using YouTube in terms of social media and whatnot, mainly just because I always find that no matter what, even if there's something good happening in the world of rugby, there's at least 10% of the comments that don't agree type things. So I try and limit the amount of social media stuff that I look at. But overall, I know that quite a few Kiwis are a bit gutted with the way that they were able to play up against the Springboks. But a lot of people saying, oh, from here. What is the score at the moment? It is sitting 8 points to 3 after 41 minutes. So Fiji are down by 5. Now in the hands of Sam Matavesi. Close to the touchline. Lamani back across there. Loose ball for Fiji. I should mention that they are going to be down by 14 men to 15 just for the next 6 minutes. Pressure on France, says Chris Seo. Is Farrell playing now? Not quite sure. He's still got 2 weeks that he is banned for. Yes, Chuck, says LJ. These box supporters need to remain calm. Yes, celebrate, but focus on the Rugby World Cups instead, says DK. Going to be kicked downfield from England, and it's kicked out on the full. Pretty Stewart making the mistake there at home. France, we have all the pressure, says Chris and World Cup is all that counts for the Box. Need to get past Scotland first, says Daryl. Speaking of Scotland, they are going to be playing Georgians in about an hour and 10 minutes' time. Now, we won't be covering that game on the channel. Instead, I will be listening to it, trying to pick up the pronunciations of those Georgian names as we head that little bit closer to the Rugby World Cup. Overthrown by Fiji. It's knocked backwards by Karoi Dua. So it does mean that the ball will stay on the side of Fiji just for a little bit longer. Semi Radradra, Waikato past to Celestino Ravatamunda trying to go around the outside of Johnny May, and he does. That's a little bit of a payback for earlier on. Paul on the inside. Naya Thalevu. And with 14 men on the field, it will be the Fijians who've managed to score themselves their first try of the game. I think they're going to check this last pass again, by the sounds of it. 15 tries in Naya Thalevu's career. It's a beautiful Waikato pass from Semi Radradra, and then the quick step in from Celestino Ravatamunda. Like I mentioned, that's the payback for earlier on when Johnny May was able to step him around the outside. Where's the Timo now, says DK? I wouldn't jinx it because I think from this angle they may have another look at it. You may have jinxed it there. Ravatamunda offloading it up to Naya Thalevu. Freddie Stewart frustrated. 14-man rugby seems very exciting these days. The thing is, there's been so many sides that have actually scored when they've been at a man disadvantage. And at times it's actually more than we see for when there were 15 on the field. New Zealand always comes back from a big win, or with a big win after a loss, says Sean. Fiji lead, says Fiji Islander. And England collapse always coming. Part of this team's DNA, says Christian. And good job, Fiji. That looks like a try, says CK. Now the kick from Caleb Muntz is successful. The first time in the game now, the Fijians have got themselves a 2-point lead, 10 points to 8, and a brilliant bit of work from Celestino Ravatamunda. He certainly made up for that try that he was conceding earlier on in the game. But Naya Thalevu, the fact that it was that same combination as what they did have in the first half with the disallowed try, were then able to get themselves one there. We have got there from Power for You. Why do you wake up so early just for a rugby game? Well, it's not just for a rugby game. It's for the live stream to be able to chat to you guys throughout the matches. Plus, I just love watching the international rugby that is around the world. We've done it all throughout our YouTubing career. That one hasn't gone out. It's just hit the line, I believe. Looks like the referee says play on, though. And it is now going to become a goal line dropout for the Fijians. But yeah, for the past 3 years, we have been very, I guess, at times sleep deprived over weekends when there's been rugby taking place. We have had like 35-hour days before, where 24 hours of that we have covered live rugby and live sport on the channel. But we're still doing it, so we must like it a little bit, surely. Nice big shot coming in there from Celestino Ravatamunda on Johnny May. Now Alex Mitchell passes across to the right-hand side off to Theo Dan. Low tackle made on him by his opposite number, Sam Matavisi. And that will be the penalty for Fiji for a neck roll by the looks of it, or at least a high shot. Anyone can beat anyone at the World Cup, says Daryl. England under pressure. They certainly are. And Courtney Lawes now conceding that penalty. He is swearing, the skipper of England. I think he's complaining about something. We'll see a replay and see that it was a clear penalty, I would say. And does the try stand? It does. Certainly does. And brilliant from Fiji, says Brian. Thoughts on France being a dark horse underdog in the World Cup? I don't know whether or not they come in as dark horses. To be honest, I've seen in the odds-wise, I think they're second ranked for who's going to be able to win the World Cup. In fact, for the TAB odds in New Zealand, they actually have a higher chance of winning than South Africa, which is quite surprising. Or it may have changed maybe a little bit after their last game that we witnessed. But yeah, I think that they aren't really dark horses per se. A lot of people are expecting the French to do well in this Rugby World Cup. With Roman Intermac being out, maybe that is the thing that puts them a little bit further towards being an underdog. Cards will dictate the winner at this World Cup, says The Rock. And also we have got there, we all give up sleep call dedication for the game, says Robert. And the Box Pack is formidable, but they are by no means unbeatable. And New Zealand have proven it many times over France, beat them last year as well, Says CK. Although they did look very strong in that last game. I will give them that. Like, that was probably the best we've seen a South African four-pack. In fact, the best we've seen a South African side play for a very long time. A neck roll, but no card. Card's gone MIA like the TMO, and thanks for getting up and doing the commentary. We appreciate it, says Frederick. No worries at all. We have got Ireland versus Samoa taking place a little bit later on tonight. That will be in about 3 hours and 20 minutes that will be kicking off, so be sure to check that out. Let's hope Fiji don't revert to their traditional type when things don't go to plan, and not even the French know what happens or what team will come out to play. If that happens, now passing out the back line, England looking to play a little bit more structure. I mentioned about how they have been struggling to score tries throughout. Referee said it's too late to go for the turnover in that breakdown, so it is going to be the penalty in favour of the English. Discipline will determine the World Cup winner, because if your team players have brain farts like Scott Barrett last night, you'll not win the World Cup, says CK. They're asking the question whether or not Alex Mitchell has done enough here for the English. I'm interested to see how Danny Kerr, Joe Marchant, as well as the option of having Marcus Smith coming off the bench will go. Ronnie Maui makes his way back out onto the field, and Fiji actually able to score more points while they were with 14 on the field rather than the 15-man England. Lamani here is coming off the field. That is for Kuravuli. Tangi Valu making his way off the field, or on the field, sorry, for Koroi Duadua. Currently Fiji with the 2-point lead. They do sit as $3 underdogs, but now England looking to get this rolling maul going once more. And Fiji need another try before they can go on the defense. Too risky otherwise, says Jonesy. Alex Mitchell off to Maro Atoje. Great carry forward. An even better tackle made by Viliami Mata. Now Alice Genge within the 10 metres. This could be a brilliant opportunity for England to get themselves back in the lead. Now playing 15 on 15, which they have actually gone better in this game than when they were playing up against a man disadvantage. Another run from Maro Atoje. To the right now, it will be Alice Genge once more, the Leicester Tigers, Bristol Bears representative. He's had a few clubs throughout the Premiership. It looks like it's a close turnover for Fiji in the breakdown, not quite able to get it. Now Courtney Laws carries forward, now 5 metres out from the line off to, it will be Dan Cole. I think they'll go left here. They have got numbers. They'll be waiting to set it up for Ollie Lawrence. Alex Mitchell, though, he hasn't spotted. Okay, now he's seen it. They will go one more to the short side, and then I believe they will look to send it the other way. Although George Ford went for the kick him behind, putting the pressure on himself as well as his English side, and they have lost about 15 metres over the ball now. Brilliant work from Semi Radradra to win the turnover penalty. Yeah, but we expect that DK never same treatment. Says Chuck T. Also, we have there coming Fiji defence, says DK, and Fiji team. Tedesco game management when in the lead. Decision making will be tested during these crucial moments. Tough game so far, says yeah, very close game between these two sides. But their last try for Fiji, I think it would have given them that confidence booster that they did need, mainly because it was their first try of the game. They've been close to scoring. They had one disallowed. Flat kick downfield from Alex Mitchell. Sorry, not Alex Mitchell. It was Caleb Muntz, but now Joe Marler also making his way onto the field. Hamish, isn't it a yellow card offence? Neck roll, says DK, or I believe it was for a high shot, I think they called it as, rather than a neck roll in that case. And watch Kuravuli pick up the pace for Fiji, says Fiji Islander. Joe Marler. Replace Alice Genge to great Lucy props. Marler actually played in the last game between these two sides, which was back in about 2015, I believe it was, the last time these two sides did go head-to-head. But now Sam Matavesi. It's like a little bit of strapping going on to the knee. One of the Fijian players, I believe that was Tangi Valu. He's had a very good game. He's been physical. He's been able to have some running meters alongside him. In fact, it was Viliami Mata. We have a good there, box. We'll hammer the Scots. Big game. We'll be against Ireland. The box will be ready for that one, says Daryl. I was hoping for some crowd chants from the English crowd like the French last week. says Buller. Unfortunately, at this stage, they just haven't really had too much to cheer about throughout this performance. Big shot coming in on Albert Tui Sui. Fiji play smart, Reverend TMO won't call it fair. Defense and tactics. Says DK, it's sad England has fallen so far, says Daryl. Oh, that looks like a stoppage here for Albert Tuisui. He was hit hard by Joe Marler, as well as I believe it was Jack Willis who just checked on him there. They might have to have another look at this one. I think he ended up losing a bit of his footing, going down to almost his knees, getting hit pretty hard in the head. I'd like to think that Yako might go upstairs just to have a look and see what caused this injury. Polisi says Daryl. And also Defence Fiji says power for you. And Amish, are you able to add a yellow icon next to the country flag showing when a yellow card and remove went back to 15, says Ken. I'm not sure whether or not this scoreboard has that ability, unfortunately, but I've been talking to the live streaming software about being able to add a few things for about 3 years now, and they haven't actually added anything. But perhaps I could put it down the bottom of the screen or something, saying who's got the yellow card might be a good idea because I can have it going across the bottom. Finally, TMO working, says DK. A massive collision there. And Khaleesi, it's like having an extra guy on the field, just as McCall was for the ABs. Khaleesi is for the box. Says Daryl, and England and New Zealand will get knocked out in the quarterfinals. Says Dinesh. Also, we have good there. I think a New Zealand versus France final. Says The Rock. Right. Are they going to be going upstairs? There's no. Okay, they can't find foul play, says Yako Piper. They have no angle that shows head contact. And Radradra, a bit confused there, saying, did we look at any angles or just. We've had a look. There's nothing clear that shows head contact, so we will continue. The footage doesn't show that, says Yako Piper. We got to see one replay. I was actually looking away for that one, unfortunately. They did end up missing it. See a few of the English players way up in the stands. Billy Vunipola up there alongside, I believe. Who else they got there? Owen Farrell's there. 2 players who have been suspended. Oh no, another unfair call. Shocking. Here's DK. I think there's also Johnny Hill. I think there's also Elliot Daly, Kyle Sinclair. We have got the Yes Toxic fans everywhere, says Daryl. And also we have the BS against Pacific team, says Chris Seo. Now Kuravoli. Scrum feed now in favour of the Fijians. Nice pass on the outside to Eliza Druasisi. Fiji says Stephen G. Breaking the line here. Here goes Vinaya Habossi. And it's the try for the Flying Fijians. Firing straight back after getting the penalty. I've got the OMG really ref. The game is seriously unfair, and I hope Fiji will win. You know what I mean? There's power for you, but brilliant work from Vinaya Habossi. I said, was it at the start of this live stream or in the preview? I think it was at the start of this one. I said that he was guaranteed to score himself a try at some point throughout this game, but Eliza Druasisi luring into English defenders. Then from there, Vinaya Habossi going with the pick and go around the side of the breakdown. Very decent effort there from Freddie Stewart to be able to get that ankle tap. Unfortunately, he was caught a little bit further out to the right, which did mean that the gap was a bit more open. And check that TMO ref. Good thing says Jinx. And Ireland hadn't beaten the ABs in 113 years, but now I've beaten them 5 times in the past 8 games. Rugby means very little in rugby. History means very little in rugby. Okay, by the sounds of it, this one has been cleared by the TMO. The try will stand 15 points to 8. I still think New Zealand versus France final, says The Rock. And England getting out of their pool, says username, well done Fiji, says Brian Hart's Racing. This is just a warm-up game, says Fiji Islander. And yeah, for the Fijians, they've got a few big matches coming up in that Rugby World Cup. And a tough group for Pool C. Now, that one has gone over from Caleb Muntz. I've got there as well, Khaleesi, best captain in the world, says Daryl. And also, yep, score looks exactly as I expected, says Amy. And I believe that it might be Amy. In that case, Fiji, they've said, have never got within 21 points of England. And now, at this stage of the match, they come in as favourites. So that is something. That is definitely going to be something for the history books. If they are able to keep this up, but they are currently up by 9 points. Marcus Smith now onto the field. Fourth look out seriously, says Jonesy. Well, the problem they've got is they got rid of Eddie Jones just before a World Cup cycle, or just before the year of the World Cup. And a lot of people wanted to see the back of Eddie Jones, and now a lot of people want to see him back because maybe the man had a plan that he wasn't quite able to execute. You've got there 17 to 8. Wowie, says Alphasaurus. Come on, Fiji, says DK. Now, Fiji. 26 minutes remaining. Still plenty of time left on the clock. Kuravuli rolls the ball back, and this is going to be another box kick from Fiji. So Ravatamanda trying to chase after that one instead, though. It's a knock on from Johnny May, picked up by Ronnie Maui off the Munts. And now 25 metres from the line, the Fijians have got themselves the possession once more. A little bit of a juggle there from the big man. The advantage is over for the original knock on. Nasilasila moves to 19 metres from the line. Another advantage now for Fiji, and they will take the penalty. And more than likely, they will take the 3 points here. Please, of course, he does. He just has sub-captains. Says Daryl, and the TMO sucks. Says Jesse there. And also we have got there, come on, the Fijians. Says power bite, but Jack Willis, he puts his hand up, apologises for giving away the penalty, but I feel in this case, did we just see a scrum? Is that what I heard? Or is it going to, no, it looks like they are going to go for the 3 points. I swear I heard the referee say scrum there, though. But it's going to be 3. That's not what he says John. And thanks, Heavy Lad, for the live commentary. All the best to the Flying Fijians, says Birdie Lee. And also we have got the English away kit, should be red, says Alpharus. England will not make the quarterfinals, says Mornay, but 3 from 3 so far for Caleb Muntz today. This is to give them a 12-point lead in this fixture against England. And like they just mentioned, they have not been within 17 points of England at Twickenham before. And now they find themselves leading by 12. I'm a box fan, 150%, but in New Zealand versus France would be nice, says Mr. Skits. But that kick is over from Muntz. 20 points to 8 now. 12 points difference. Farrell's looking like he's eaten a lemon at the moment. He was suspended. He is still going to be suspended for another 2 days, 2 matches. Looks like now Lewis Ludlam to make his way onto the field. Currently struggling, it would seem, for the Flying Fijians. Sorry, for the English to be able to keep up with this Fijian tempo. Good morning there from Australia, Hamish. Says Daniel Watson, welcome in. That is going to be the knock-on from Fiji, though. Perhaps the half chance that England need to be able to get themselves back into this contest. They're down by 12, but 2 tries in a row will get them right back into it. Now, Alex Mitchell, little chip in behind. Is it going to sit up for Marcus Smith? It certainly does. He breaks the line and scores the try for England. And Marcus Smith fired up. The Quinn Super sub has just got England back into the match here. What happened to England? Says Hirsch, well, they have started their comeback. The question is, can they finish it? Now, what was all the fuss with the Steve Borthwick guy? Now, what is his plan? Is there a plan? Does he know what the plan is? Important question. Says cited. But the chip in behind from George Ford sits up for Marcus Smith. He's in front, is he? Or is he all right? They're going to check this one just to make sure that Marcus Smith wasn't already in front of George Ford at the time of kicking. I believe they might say he's offside by a couple inches. That's level for me, says the TMO, and the referee. The try stands. That looked a good try, says Fiji Islander. We have got there. No, says power for you. And Marcus Smith is a great player. He certainly is. And I feel like with the fact now that they have got George Ford and Marcus Smith as the 2 10s for the first 2 games of the Rugby World Cup, the question is who will be starting in that one. Right after me, myocarditis. His career is over. And now why isn't the media reporting this? Why do they hush it up? Says Power Bite, and well, what a turn for the books. Well, what a turn up for the books, says Stuart Moore. But Marcus Smith does get the try. He was beyond fired up. And just like that, this game changes, ladies and gentlemen. The score now sitting 20 points to 15. And it's stolen by England again inside of their 22. Alex Mitchell with the step. Big tackle made on him by Luke Tungy, but England up to the halfway line. Knock on, though, from Ollie Chesson, the last thing that England wanted, because now Naya Thalevu looking for the corner for the Fijians, just slides into touch, though, 10 metres out from the line. This game has opened up well and truly with end-to-end stuff here. He must be, as Doctor says, Daryl. Marcus Smith is an exciting player, really. Says cited. They will start. George Ford says, Power Bite, and greetings, Hamish, in the chat, listening as I paint the bathroom. Every team goes through dark periods. Remember Ireland losing twice to Namibia in the 90s, dark days indeed. Question, Mountains. What colour you painting your bathroom? Is it going to be green? And if so, is it going to be like the Irish kit green, or is it going to be like a little bit more faded, perhaps? England have scored 2 tries. That's an improvement, says Brian. I actually mentioned about it at the start of this game. I said if we do end up seeing England lose this game, but if they score 4 tries, as bad as it would be to lose it, that's still a little bit of progress that they have made in that regard, because they have been struggling across the try line. One was debatably not straight from Theo Dam, but the game rolls on. 15 metres out from their own line here. England trying to march forward with the rolling maul. Fair, says Christian. Now, Alex Mitchell put up the box kick. Weather has improved, like they've said. And come on, Fiji, says DK. Now, Celestino Ravatamanda. That's high from Alex Mitchell. Got him around the head there. Been slammed into the turf there by Dan Cole as well. Now, short side. Luke Tungy, the big boy. Making a few extra metres. An off-white, a porcelain white, according to the paint pot. Says Mountains of Asylum. Now, a nice little step from Eliza Doroa Cece. We haven't seen a huge amount of him running with the ball. They will go back for the original high tackle, though, against Alex Mitchell. Another high shot, no cards again. Although in that case, like they've said, there's nothing really dangerous in it. He's just ended up going a bit too high around the neck. What's wrong with Fiji's power for you? And let them play. It's just a penalty, says Fiji Islander. Corrupt against specific teams, says Chris Seo. It's a lack of danger. Says Yucko Piper for that one. And to be fair, in that case, that one is the lack of danger that he mentioned. Now, Fiji, they've got a decision to make. Do they take the 3 points, which could be definitely available for them here? Caleb Munson could be sitting 5 from 5 if he is able to get this boot over. Or do they go for the corner, try and secure this game with a try? They have decided to go for the 3 points rather than going for the corner. We have got the AFL has told me to get. I still would have shown him the finger, says Daryl. 46 metres out now for Caleb Muntz. This will give them an 8-point lead. Go for the 3, says Brian. Yeah, it's strategic, it's smart, and hopefully Muntz can continue that kicking form that we've seen. He's already he's sitting on 4 from 4, trying to make it 5. Caleb Muntz. It's looking pretty good straight down the middle this time, and that will now make the score 15 points to 23 in favour of the Flying Fijians. Come on, Fiji, says Power Bite. And now with the 8-point lead, England once again go back to underdogs. Fun fact, they did actually almost jump up to favourites with that quick try scored by Marcus Smith. It looks like the rain might be starting to pour again. It took it in. Come on, Fiji, hang on for the win. Says Arabia Jimbula Kiwi lad. Says Josefa, welcome in, mate. You are doing extremely well. Koroi Dua. It's already been on the field for a little bit of time, but now makes his way back out there. Let's be frank, Hamish Timo. Clearly unfair, no cards. Dirty English plays. Says DK. It's an interesting scenario in this case because, yes, we can look at all of the decisions that they've missed in this game, which there have been a few, of course, or in this case, Fiji up by 8, 18 minutes to go. If you get behind the side, maybe they can get themselves a historic first victory. And I feel like that will be something that in the overall scheme of things, like people will look at a lot more than the decisions made throughout this game. They'll look at the history that has been made from it for the Fijians. Nicely taken by Marcus Smith. I think I'm going to have a heart attack just for a warm-up game. Says power for you, come on Fiji, says Lauricio. Now nice run forward from Lewis Ludlam. Over the ball was Sila for half a second, then he decided to pull out of it. Alex Mitchell now going across to the left-hand side. Now into the hands of Manu Tuolangi. That man has gone quiet for the last about maybe 50 minutes, somewhere around there. He doesn't want to be frank. He wants to be Hamish. Come on, Fiji, says Fluffy. Now going off to the right-hand side. Marcus Smith looking for the kick in behind. Just looking for the territory, and it will go out about 5 meters out from the Fijian line. And Flying Fijian to make the quarterfinal, says Mornay. And guess that's why I was dead, says Daryl. And also regularly, come on, Fiji, says DK. Come on, Fiji, you can do it, says Power Bite. Come on, Fiji. England should have had a yellow card for that neck tackle. Fiji, says Kalmick. 17 minutes remaining. I should mention we've got another game just around the corner that we are covering on the channel, ladies and gentlemen. The long throw from Fiji. Big run from Te Ahuaru Rekadavito, although England this time have got themselves the ball in the turnover. Mistake made by the Flying Fijians to give England half a sniff of a chance at a try. Trying to kick it in line with George Ford. The ball sits back up for him. Malins now receives the pass. Now Mitchell off into the hands of Joe March, and the Harlequin superstar looking to get himself a try, just like we saw from Marcus Smith not too long ago. Now Mitchell again, looking to the short side, instead goes off to Courtney Laws. Cross kick for George Ford, running onto this one. Taken, no. Earls has put it down, just like England had throughout the Ashes series. A lot of drop catches, and this one could have been a crucial one. Come on, Fiji, says Gareth. Is this history in the making, says Gordon. Tell you what, England are trying their absolute best to cause to not be history. But, I mean, either way in this game, we are going to see history, because the lowest amount that Fiji have lost by at Twickenham was 17. So they are well and truly within that. Going for the corner, Ben Earl looking into the sun. He wasn't expecting it to be out in England today. Apologises to his teammate. Defence Fiji, says DK, and great tackle by the Fijian, says Kalmick. And so close, says Fiji Islander. Right, Kalaveti Ravovo making his way onto the field. That is rather than Simi Radradra, who hasn't quite been his normal, I guess, dangerous self today. He's had a couple good moments throughout the game, but also has been a little bit more quiet. And it looks like Albert Tuisui will be returning back out onto the field after his HIA. He has been able to pass it. We've got the England looking to cause an upset against Fiji. There's username. Te Ahuaru Rekadavita. He will be making his way off the field. So I think they've had a bit of a reshuffle in that forward pack. History never repeats, Fozzie tells himself before he goes to sleep. Come on, Fiji, says Fluffy. Now scrum beat only a few metres out from their own try line here, Fiji. They are still up by 8, though. If that does end up going less than 7, we've got a game that's going to go down to the wire. But if Fiji can keep that lead and maybe even score themselves another try very soon, that should all but secure the deal, secure the victory for them. But yeah, the sun is out. It's a weird day. We've seen pouring rain, we've seen lightning, we've seen thunder, and now we're seeing sunshine breaking through the clouds. Kuravuli, replacement halfback, goes across to Kalaveti Ravovo. That will be his first run since making his way onto the field only about 30 seconds prior. Muntz now looking for some distance on this boot, and has managed to find touch on this near side of the field. Albert passed the HIA, but no review by ref or TMO, despite the video technology available. Says DK, standard English weather, to be fair. Says Jonesy. Yeah, they always say it's 4 seasons in a day, isn't it? Over in England. And even a penalty might be enough for Fiji. Says Brian, that is true. That would extend it to 11, which does put that a little bit of extra pressure on England to be able to convert their try when they do have it. If they do have it. That is. Go Fiji, says Daryl. The use of TMO is a bit suspect in this game, says Kalmack. Now passing off to the right-hand side. George Ford, flat ball off to Manu Tuolangi. As if he was there for the first 10 minutes, went on holiday, and then came back for the last 15. And now could be the most important time of the game for him to be involved. 35 metres out. Mitchell goes across to Ford again. Dan Cole hit hard in the challenge. In fact, it was Joe Marler. Now Ludlam, quick hands from him. George Ford nicely recycled off to Marcus Smith, who gives it to Manu Tuolangi. Held down by the tackle of Muntz. Muntz is man of the match at the moment with the way he's been able to play throughout this game. His tackling's been solid. He hasn't been able to help set up too many of the tries overall. It's been the centres who have had the main amount of impact. Now George Ford going for the kick and behind again. I don't agree with that tactic. I feel like, yes, it worked once for Marcus Smith's try, but I feel like running that one would have been a lot more effective. They did have the advantage, though. So now it does mean that they will be going back for it. England are not within the 7 points, so they can go for the 3 here, or they can kick for the corner to try and close that gap that little bit more. I think that they're considering the 3. No, they will kick for the corner, England, and that is what they've got to do. The mentality has to be attacking. And it looks like Eddie Jones was working miracles with a mediocre bunch of English players, says John Nettling, and Fiji scrum is better than the ABs, says Dinesh. Everyone wants Fiji to win, says Kalmak. It seems like they have got quite a bit of support in this one, but the thing is, this Fijian side, they always play with a lot of heart. They play with determination, and they've been playing in some pretty decent form over the last few weeks. So the fact that they are even considered as an option of winning this game just shows you the progression, that we have seen from Fiji over the last few years. But the rolling ball of England looking to spoil the Fijian party. Only hanging on to that one at the back is Ben Earls. I mentioned that Fiji's rolling ball defense is something that they have been a little bit less stable throughout their last few games. It looks like this game, though, they have been doing relatively well with it. I think that's almost the first rolling ball that we've actually seen from the English of this half. Anyway, they did have one attempt in the first, and Fiji were able to get away with the scrum. Ball available for Mitchell. 5 metres out from the line. They're going off to the right-hand side. Now George Ford after Joe Marchant, who scores the try. Gives the thumbs up. There was Holly Adamson on the touchline, and England are back into the contest. Nice to see these two nations giving it their all, says Jan. Of course, everyone wants Fiji to win. Who wouldn't? Says Builder McLeod, and I'm back in Fiji is doing it, says LJ. And Joe Marchant. 2 Harlequins tries off the bench for England. And now sitting 20 points to 23. 1 point in it with a conversion. Damn, says Kelmac. I'm back in Fiji is doing it. And Super Rugby has been a game changer for the Fijians, says CK. Joe Marchant scoring it nicely. I've got the here we go. And let's see now. Thanks, ref. Keep your cards at home, says DK. And the kick from George Ford is down the middle of the post. 12 minutes, in fact, down to 11 minutes remaining now. 1 point in this contest between the two teams. What does that do to the odds? England actually become the favourites again, being 1 point down currently. They have this game available to watch on the TAB in New Zealand. I did not know that. Wow. What other games are available? Scotland, Georgia, Italy, Japan, and Ireland, Samoa are all actually available to watch on the New Zealand TAB for anyone who is in New Zealand, as well as France versus Australia. So anyone who doesn't have Sky but does have a TAB account, you can actually watch these games for free. That's a bit of a fumble there from Danny Kerr. It's a knock-on. Now Fiji, about 15 metres out from the English try line, have got themselves a brilliant chance. Now, I mentioned about the Harlequins players. Danny Kerr, the third Harlequins player in the back line to come off the bench, may have made a crucial error there. You've got there, and the chat, come on, Fiji, get another try. There's Kalmak, the English bench players are better, says The Rock. Just don't have the bench, unfortunately, says Jamie Sheehan. Now 10 minutes remaining. Say that from John. I cannot say that because I know what it means, John. But they're 22 to 23, or 2023. So it is 22 to 23 at the moment. Hopefully, I think the scoreboard's just updated. But Kuravuli about to feed the ball in for the Fijians here. Solid scrum from both of these sides. Kuravuli are going to go off to the left-hand side to Kalaviti Ravovo. Drops down to a knee, 10 metres out from the line. Almost going to be held up here by George Ford, and it's gone down. Release now is the call, so the ball will come out the back for the Fijians. Ball's available, says Jaco Piper. Short pass from Kuravuli onto the right. I always remember England winning the World Cup. They made poor world champions after winning that half-nil from England. And also, Hamish, that cracked me up, says John. Yeah, I've learned a little bit of Afrikaans in my time, mainly because the same sentences that you've used, I've probably been called about 15 times. It's spelt by the Fijians and England back in position now. Only 9 metres out from their line with 9 remaining on the clock. A lot of pressure being put on George Ford, but he looks to get as much distance as physically possible. Doesn't find the touchline, so Eliza Droasisi goes off to the short side to Celestino Ravatamanda, also probably a man of the match potential option. Fiji, Kuravuli, off to the left again. Samutawaki. Now off to Vilive Miramira. Moment for Fiji. The longer they can hang on to this ball, the absolute better. But if they can get themselves over the try line here, it could secure the deal. Valive Miramira, cut out pass to Celestino Ravatamanda. He stepped through one, finds the offload, and it's going to be Kuravoli who gets himself the try, puts up the antlers. And that is going to give Fiji, once again, their 8-point lead. What a game, says Stephen G. Beauty, says Kalamack, and let's go, says Fiji Islander. Okay, Ravatamunda's probably putting himself a little bit higher up in terms of the man of the match contenders, but brilliant work from Fiji. Wide cutout pass from Valive Mira, number 7 in this game. Well, he's number 20, but he's playing as a 7 in this case. And then Kuravuli was ready for the offload from Celestino Ravatamanda. And the offload is brilliant. Come on, Fiji. Come on, you beautiful superstars. Way to go, says Power by. And great, Fiji. This is fantastic, says username. And try time brilliant, says cited canvas there as well. We have good there. Ref and TMO still checking. Again, another review, says DK, although this try will stand. Now, Muntz, he is sitting 5 from 5 today. He's been brilliant off the kicking tee with 7 minutes remaining on the clock. This is a crucial kick and probably one of the easier ones that he has had throughout the 73 minutes. Spoke too soon, says Jamie Sheehan. And the kick has gone over. So England are going to need a try and something to be able to walk away with a victory here with only 6.5 minutes remaining. The odds are forever heading further towards the Fijians. Don't misplace his username. The kick is successful. Making it 30 points to 22 now. Going to be kicked up high. Knocked on by Fiji. Advantage in favour of the English. Manu Tuolangi. England don't want to curl over and stop trying in this game. It would seem every time that the Fijians score, England seem to be able to fire straight back. It's just the problem is they're letting the Fijians score before getting themselves a try. George Ford has kicked it in behind. I don't think that was a good idea. And that one's going to be forced dead. Goal line dropout. Argentina licking their lips. Japan too, says Scott. Yeah, they'll be looking at this game as a really good showing of they've got a real chance in Group D, which is why Group D is going to be so exciting. Samoa will be looking at this game going, yep, this is what we want to see. This is making me more nervous than the Box AB's game yesterday. Zez Venster, a new job for Borthwick, says Rave. Looks like Tete Tela now making his way off the field, or onto the field, sorry, and that is for Waisianaya Talivu, a man who managed to get himself the first try for Fiji. And while this World Cup is going to be exciting, says John, it certainly is being is going to be, I should say. And we are going to be covering every game on the channel. So be sure, if you haven't already, to hit that subscribe button. Now Ben Earl, nice step taking place there. Albert Tuisui making the tackle. Now Danny Kerr goes short side off to the big man, Will Stewart. Sitting 22 metres out, almost called as a maul, but it will be play on just for now. Danny Kerr going to the left-hand side now. That's Dave Ribbons. Wrestled down. 5 minutes remaining. Inside ball to Max Malins. Tackled low by Tangi Valu. In fact, it might have actually been the replacement, number 19 there. Now off to the left, Marcus Smith tries the step. Tackled low by Celestino Ravatamanda, who has hardly put a foot wrong throughout this game. The only time was that first try scored by the English. Every other time, though, he has been playing brilliantly. Wide cut out pass now for Lewis Ludlam, stepping around Vinaya Habossi. Even though England do still have possession, this is using up more time on the clock. Forward, short ball, big shot coming in from Samu Tawaki. Now off again, Danny Kerr going to Ben Earl. England are not giving up here. They're up to 11 phases, 10 metres out from the line, but Fiji over the ball and they win the penalty. Who was it who got over there? Frank Lamani and all of his teammates on the bench are celebrating. It was Sam Matavesi who managed to get himself that crucial turnover, looking like he's going to be playing a full 80 minutes here, rather than having Zaril Togiotama come off the bench. Now England are going to be under more pressure, only 4 minutes remaining, and Fiji have got themselves the line-out thrown. Now, we've seen a couple unsuccessful line-outs, though, for Fiji throughout this 80 minutes. And I believe now would not be a good time to change Sam Matavesi. Definitely not when he's just got himself that turnover. And that's it. Surely, says Brian. Game over, says Jamie Sheehan. The only thing that might end up changing it is if England can get the turnover here. They've said England have to score twice or at least get one try and a penalty in their favour. Nicely taken by the Fijians, who look for the rolling maul, and they've got the penalty advantage here. England trying to get the turnover as quickly as possible. Kuravuli putting as much length on their kick as he can. It's an awkward sitting up one for the man at 11, Johnny May, and they going back for another Fijian penalty. This is history in the making, ladies and gentlemen. Only 3 minutes remaining in this game, and the Fijians are showing a lot of heart, a lot of determination at Twickenham. Before this game, we had seen the closest game between these two sides be 17 points in favour of England playing at Twickenham Stadium. Now, there is a chance that we see Fiji with 8 points in their favour. If not more, they've still got one more opportunity. Yes, Fiji Love from South Africa says Moonstone. I don't care what he is. I still say stuff him. Says Neil. Also got there. I've been trying to tell people Fiji are set for the World Cup. Says K2S. I feel their performance up against France certainly showed that with those top sides, they can compete. Now, Fiji got themselves another line-out throw here with Sam Matavesi. 8 points difference at the moment. Thrown into the front, nicely taken by Esoana Silasila. 2 minutes on the clock. Togiotama. He has made his way onto the field. That is actually for Viliami Mata, so they've decided to keep Matavesi out there for the full time. And I have to mention something that is beneficial for Fiji as well as England in this game. We haven't seen many injuries at all. So that is the best news, I would say, for both sides, but not quite as nice as the news that Fiji are about to walk away with the victory. Now off to Albert Tuisui. England, they need a crucial turnover here. If they give away a penalty advantage, the game is over. Oh, Lamani. Oh, in fact, it was Kuravuli tried to milk it. Falling over there. Now Sila, another crash ball from Fiji. 1 minute 20 remaining on the clock. Caleb Muntz going back across to Celestino Ravatamanda, the two best players on the field, linking up there. It will be a knock-on against the Fijians, though. And there is going to be the scrum. I don't think there's enough time left on the clock for England to be able to score themselves a try and also the penalty. So I think this is pretty much game over, ladies and gentlemen. I know a lot of people in Fiji would have stayed up late to watch this game, so I hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you are going to be celebrating through to the morning for a historic victory for the Fijians. This is the first time these two sides have played in over 7 years. Tell you what, England might want to keep it that way. Right now, England ref TMO. Now, Jonas says DK, but that's what I was saying earlier on. Rather than looking at the decisions that were made in this game from the referees or from the TMO, instead, we just got to look at the way that Fiji were able to dig deep and fight in this game. Rather than saying, we're not quite getting the calls here, so we might as well give up. They stepped up, they dug deep, and now they are going to have to defend against one last English attack. Max Malins, he was close to the touchline, he was out. And now the line out, the final one of the day. Damn, Australian Wales must be careful with Fiji, says John. And also we have got there, go Fiji, says Doctor. I should mention that we have got Samoa versus England. That is the next game that we are covering on the channel. Now Samoa coming as huge underdogs. But after seeing what the Fijians have been able to do up against England, is there a slither of hope for their Pacific Island brothers to be able to go on and do the same thing? Now Sam Matavesi throwing the ball in. Now Silla hasn't quite been able to claim it cleanly. I believe there was a small knock on the ground there, but it looks like it will be play on just for now as it was against the Fijians. Marcus Smith goes off to Joe Marchant, who is 5 metres from the line. England looking to strike last in this game, but if anything, they may just fire up the English fans more. Stolen in the breakdown. Muntz fends off Danny Kerr, and Fiji at Twickenham walk away with a historic victory just before the Rugby World Cup. Elation on the faces of the Fijian side, the Fijian locals who have come out to this game to support their team have been treated to an absolutely brilliant performance. They were down by 8. They then managed to get themselves the lead. And now that they've walked away with the victory here, what does that mean for Pool D? And what does that mean for Pool C? Because those are the two that a lot of people will be looking at extremely closely come time for this Rugby World Cup competition. But brilliant work from Celestino Ravatamanda. It looked like he was going to have maybe a very tough day at the office after seeing Johnny May manage to get himself that first try down his wing. But then from there, Ravatamanda, he was absolutely everywhere, making tackles, getting himself the assist of the eventual try of Naya Levu, which then opened up the floodgates for the Flying Fijians. Also, brilliant performance from the youngster Caleb Muntz. I know there was a lot of talk of we need Vula for the Fijian side, but I tell you what, if Muntz plays like that throughout the World Cup, Fiji will be more than all right. He's kicking about 6 from 6 today, helps setting up tries out of these matches. The group of deaf is yes, says excited, and the Cool Bananas Fiji, awesome Fiji. Looking forward to watching the replay. Says Fluffy, well done Fiji, says Eldon, and keep up your unfair performances. Chris in the TMO says DK, but like I said, Fiji dug deep. That's the main thing for them. In the rule book or in the score book, history book as well, it's not going to say referee had some controversies. It's going to say Fiji won this game 30 points to 22. That will certainly give them high hopes heading into that World Cup. Is the right, Kiwi lads? Does Full overtake England? Or does Fiji overtake England in the rankings? I know that Fiji were 9th, if I'm not wrong. I don't know whether or not they will go ahead of England. They might be close, though, with the way that the rankings work. I think if they had won this game by one more try, they may have had a little bit more of a boost. And was there controversy season? Wait, there were a couple. But at the end of the day, we look at this result. Fiji able to get themselves a victory. That's the main thing. Again, great coverage, bro, says Fiji Islander. England have a huge mountain to climb at the World Cup. Great victory for Fiji, says Jose. And great job, bro, says Chuck T. Thank you very much, mate. And like I mentioned, we have got a game taking place in the very near future. That will be the matchup between Samoa and also Ireland. Too easy. Stairs being to tell you what, they had to dig deep in this game. And I feel like anyone who watched that 80 minutes saw adversity for the Fijians. They saw the heart. They saw the determination. And Celestino Ravatamanda just getting interviewed after this game. I believe he was given the player of the match. All of a sudden, Australia and Argentina looking good on that side of the draw, says The Rock. Congratulations to Fiji. Incredible victory and incredible performance, says Connor Cahill. But nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning into this live stream. Like I mentioned, we've got Samoa versus Ireland. That has taken place in 2 hours and 30 minutes time. First of all, though, we will have a post-match review of this contest, so be sure to check that out on the channel as well. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, I should mention on Monday morning, New Zealand time, we have got France versus Australia. There's a lot of intrigue for that one, definitely to see how Australia go building into Pool C. But thank you all very much for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I will see you all for the next one.